Welcome in, everybody, to the 19th iteration of Proving Grounds presented here on IPL Splatoon. My name is Shiny Hunter Zach, and joining me today for the first half of this wonderful broadcast is the effervescent Splatoon Lily. And Lily, we've got a slightly smaller cast, but no shortage of hopes and dreams here as these 17 teams vie to take the top spot here today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a much smaller roster than we typically expect from a PG, but we're also approaching back to school season, so it doesn't really surprise me too much. Everyone's probably, out shopping, getting all their books and their pencils and, the things that kids need these days for school and college. But nonetheless, we're gonna have hopefully a good time. There's still some teams here that are pretty notable and some names that we'll be recognizing throughout the night. And between the two of us and the two commentators coming later, there's going to be no shortage of entertainment.
No shortage of entertainment or excitement. And we'll be starting it off in rapid fire fashion as our winners round one is just going to be a best of three, with us proceeding into some best of fives later. So you can see on the screen here, our first match is going to be between Octopi and YIPPIEE. So Octopi having quite the stacked roster. They've got several names to work off of. They've got Potato as sort of an anchor or backline player. They've got Tort, I believe Tortilla, on more of that supportive shooter role, and other players like Dimler on more of an aggressive shooter style to back them up, with other players like Magic, I believe operating one of my more favorite weapon classes in the Tri-Slosher and Tri-Nouveau. And then on the opposite side of things with YIPPIEE, a couple names that we can see there like Zenith, who has been on a couple of sort of meta favorite weapons like the Splatana Wiper, as well as the, I believe, Nautilus. And then Cease, also another potential backliner player there. Lily, you may know more about these teams than I am, as we also look at our map list here for this first round.
Yeah, who knows? Assist I know very well from even just playing solo queue. They were always incredibly powerful charger players. I think nowadays they've switched to ballpoint like most have, but it looks like we're getting right into things on Splat Zone's Mako Mart. Can't go wrong. A classic favorite from Splatoon 2 coming back in, and we're going to see Potato on the E-Leader, which is an interesting pick, and Assist coming out on the other side with an E-Leader as well. It looks like we're having mirror comps for the most part too.
Yeah, both teams not only running similar compositions in terms of weapons, but 3 out of 4 members on each side running that last-ditch effort. Such a strong piece of headgear wear to main, especially when you get into the later stages of Splat Zones, which so often does not go the distance because of how relatively quickly this timer ticks down. Going to be looking at Octopi here, starting things off. Both teams, as mentioned, running a Tri-Slosher, so they're going to have that offensive edge. However, they're going to go down in the form of a trade, I believe. Had the Inkjet at the ready, not going to be able to use it as they start off. Mario now going to try and help maintain the slim lead here for YIPPIEE. And Lily, that's what this map and mode tend to be about, is that quick rush to the middle. Unless you're on something like the E-Leader that both of these teams are facing, it's just going to be brawls right next to this plus-shaped zone.
Yeah, adding those E-Leaders in really does create that tighter map to work with. Honestly, it's a really big issue. You cut off so many different lines of approach, and you turn those skirmishy weapons into a bit more of a bloodbath when you cut off so many different angles. Looks like Assist is already getting ready up on this left-hand side, just pitching up a tent and getting ready to cut off anybody trying to come in on this retake. But I mean, the points are moving pretty slowly. We're only a minute and a half into this and barely any points on the board.
That's the benefit of having zone advantage. As your sniper, your charger player can place themselves a bit ahead right on top of those boxes, just to the side of the zone, and even on the opposing team's boxes there as they look to get a little jump snipe there. We saw one splat off of the Inkjet. Mario sort of in the backline, again on that supportive weapon, that NZAP, looking just sort of maintain the pace of play here as they tick past the 30 marker. They go down, however, it's going to be 2 down, and now if Inkjet from Magic is not going to find too much other than some pressure as they load up on that soda right behind the pillow in zone, and that alone will be enough to take that zone back, even despite the incoming Iguzuka shots from the members of YIPPIEE.
That Zuka just proving to be incredibly powerful, getting a lot of value there. Picked off 1 or 2 on the zone and nearly flipped it. Perhaps did flip it, apply a little bit of penalty there, and allowed some teammates to come in. But the Sharks coming on these sides from some of these more aggressive players are getting a little out of hand.
Yeah, the range of the Tri-Slosher's main weapon can really be deceiving as they not only get one there, but they're going to get a shot in the form of a trade with that Inkzuka. It's actually 2v2 now as YIPPIEE going to get control of the zone back without too much damage. They're going to start to chip away at their penalty once more, and only halfway through this match time-wise, really. So a lot has happened in this short period of time. I think that could be attributed a lot to just how aggressive this is when you have such a relatively small pace that you're playing around with. Mario there throwing that special down the soda machine. It's a 3-down situation forced against Octopi. Tort having to back off and just save that Inkzuka to try for maybe one more retake.
That's really all they have left. 15 ticks left on the timer, and they have one chance left to get back in here. But Zenith over here, this Tri-Slasher, going to take out 2 before they even touch the zone. It's a 2v2 situation right now. They are able to interrupt it, but whether or not they can cap it is going to be the bigger issue. It looks like just a bloodbath on zone, capping inside of YIPPIEE, and it looks like just enough pain on the zone to be able to take it without letting Octopi move back over. It does look like we had a bit of a DC there at the end. Interesting, but that game was very firmly finished by the time it happened.
Yeah, maybe fortunate that the DC, of course, happened at the end of the game. You don't want that to happen, at all, but of course not after any sort of point of no return, as it were, regarding the rules when you have to either play out a 3v4 or just take an instant game loss there. But a nice start there going back and forth between Octopi and YIPPIEE. Again, we talked about how just aggressive the nature of fighting over this zone in mid can be. There's not a lot of places to hide behind. You have the pillow in the zone itself, which players weren't exactly using themselves, but it's a nice safe place to put your tactic cooler so that you can resupply on it. We saw that happen when folks were ending off of their inkjet, for example, just going to pick that up and make sure that they could continue to provide some offensive presence. And then for your longer range players, your E-leaders, depending on how much advantage you have, you either sort of have to play to get a pick for your team to get back into the fight, or to play on top of those boxes, or even get a little bit aggressive and ahead of yourself to get somebody that might be coming out from spawn, because you either on this map, I feel like, have to go just straight through where you drop down into on the left-hand side, or all the way around, sort of going up that long ramp and over by that sniper perch. And either way, it can really, really take a long time, especially if you don't have anybody around the zone that's safe to jump to.
Absolutely, and it felt too like the teams, the dueling E-leaders, forced a little bit more of a honest full frontal assault than it did. That map often plays with some very silly flanks, and you often have to watch behind you more than you watch ahead of you. But it felt like the E-leaders watching those areas just cut off a lot of those options, and a lot of the players were forced to play a little bit more linear than they were probably hoping to on that map, which is, the problem you always get when you introduce an E-leader into the bunch.
Well, if on this next map and mode, you're not going to be looking behind you, you're certainly going to need to look side to side, 90 degrees in both directions here, as we move now to tower control on Inkbot Art Academy, as we see YIPPIEE with a 1-0 lead in this best of 3 for winners round 1 here. And I think, Lily, the aggression may continue here. You have such a small space in order to work with, and compared to other longer maps, the path that the zone, or the tower, takes, rather, especially that first checkpoint where you're really sandwiched in between 2 walls and don't have a lot of room to move around on, can make for some really, really hectic team fights.
It truly can. I'm not expecting a whole lot of changes on the fronts of the frontline weapons. We're probably still going to see a lot of the same. The Tri-Slashers coming out. The Zuka's still coming out. It looks like both teams, one team actually just switched to a Neo Splash, probably to help, or a Vanilla Splash to get that crab out. Interesting choice for a tower control map, but we'll take it. I'm more interested, though, in what the backliners have chosen for this one. One choosing to stay on the E-leader, and one choosing to switch to the ZF Charger, which will give them those trip strikes, which will hopefully help stop some tower pushes.
Yeah, as you mentioned, some changes both for the map and for the mode itself. You talked about the charger changes, and we have the Z+F splatter scope there coming out on the side of Octopi, I believe, who is going to have those triple ink strikes, maybe to throw a cheeky little splash wall in the tower. We talked about, as we see a nice shot there onto Tort, maybe throwing a splash wall against one of the walls to get it placed on top of the tower and provide some cover. And of course, the triple ink strikes can come down right on top of a checkpoint and at least clear house, if not get some picks. And speaking of clearing house, YIPPIEE doing just that, as they've made it all the way to 61 before 3 out of 4 members going down. It's going to be Mario trying to maybe get one last pick here, but maybe outdid themselves, maybe did a little bit more harm than good there, as they're going to be a late pick, giving Octopi an advantage to at least reset that tower back to mid.
A little bit of a miscommunication there, I think, on the side of Mario. Just unfortunately abandoning that bats area that was so important to hold if you want to make a push to try to go back for that tower. And I think there was just a little bit of a miscommunication for who was going to handle that. Unfortunately, gave up a good position and ended up in a team wipe. Now, good for Octopi though, allowing them to come back in, especially on this left-hand side. Those trip strikes coming out for support as Tort tries to get a few sneaky picks, hopefully, and try to get this tower moving. It looks like we're hovering around mid a little bit more than I would like to see.
Yeah, speaking of good for Octopi there, they get one of the longer range threats out of the way early, that Nautilus 47, which is able to not only spot out some members for their team with that point sensor, play a little bit more of a supportive role there, but also to build up that Ink Storm and just have that passive control coming in through wherever the tower path is going to be. Now 2 down on the side of Octopi as Peachy tries to find a couple of more there with that Inkzuka. For now, they're going to content themselves with trying to find somebody on that platform area. This little ink trail here in which they find Potato here and are looking for a second, so often used to provide an offensive advantage for the team that's pushing in. They're not going to be able to find anything else, but they will at least duck and dodge their way out of the way of this crab tank, who has to go into ball form and just barely survives. That's going to be Snoo there with 3 members of YIPPIEE going down. It's down to 55 here as we're at the halfway mark, but still plenty of time for Octopi, who has control in mid.
Yeah, for sure. On this map, I wouldn't consider second checkpoint really the do or die. You have to break that checkpoint, which can be so incredibly difficult. If you don't have full control of that bats area, there's so many ways that the enemy team can come in and take you out. And it looks like Octopi is just having some troubles taking advantage of the openings that they're creating. They're getting almost full wipes in the enemy team, but they can't seem to make it past mid. YIPPIEE just coming in and just unrelenting pressure, it seems. They're just throwing themselves at Octopi and refusing to give any ground.
Yeah, you talk about that pressure. You know, when we were seeing 2 and even 3 of those vanilla splash-o-matics, you know, you would have crab tank users that would play one of a couple different roles. You would have some that were the aggressive, like, I'm building this up to try and get picks for my team, especially at range, and some that are like, I'm building this up just to get it in the first 10 to 12 seconds and really provide that pressure. And maybe Octopi is providing pressure, but as you mentioned, they're not really getting the consistent picks that they need. And now we're seeing a couple of Trizukas get traded out with each other. Zine is trying to dance inside the Inkstorm to stay alive and active, but Tort going to be able to push up after taking them down here. That's going to be yet another push from YIPPIEE, not quite extending their lead, as you mentioned, Lily. Not the safest of leads here, but as we get closer to that minute mark, right now, it's enough to where Octopi is having to reserve themselves, come back, hop on this tower, of which they're now getting their largest lead of the day, and use these specials conservatively to try and steal this one away.
Love seeing Snoop pop this crab tank on the left-hand side, providing some overarching cover for their teammates trying to break that checkpoint. It does look like Octopi was forced to abandon the tower there, unfortunately sitting in a little bit of a stalemate, but 2 down on YIPPIEE. This might be the chance that they need if they can get another push going. Hopefully just riding off the back of that first push, they are able to clear some of the more aggressive members, but 2 down, the E-leader charging down at them. They might have to back off of this one, and honestly, the lead, walking away with the lead there, even if it's a technical lead, isn't the worst.
Yeah, they're going to take the lead just barely there, and I think the bit of aggression there was a big gamble that paid off just barely there as Tort headed forward ahead of the tower to make sure that they had enough room to progress. They're going to go 3 down here, so this should provide YIPPIEE with an opportunity if they can get on the tower to force overtime here, and that's a couple more late picks they're forced onto Octopi. That's going to be their support going down, though, for YIPPIE, followed by their splatter shot, so it's just the long-range weapons, and with nobody on the tower, it's going to be Octopi winning a war of attrition, I believe, who's going to come through there. Actually, as YIPPIEE is able to save this one out, Octopi not quite able to get back on, and so unfortunate. As you can see, the map there just had a lot of that lighter blue color. It looked like things were finally turning around, but Octopi just not having anyone in the position to force this one to overtime. Nobody touching that tower in the final few seconds.
I feel like I blinked there and missed YIPPIEE taking back the lead. I'm not entirely sure when that happened.
It was so back and forth, and like you mentioned, just one single point really separating those teams. And I saw the 2, you know, lower range weapons get knocked out, and I was like, okay, well, that's okay. You know, basically overtime on tower control is a lot of just jumping to the tower to see if you're not trickling in too much to where you can keep the push alive. But unfortunately, as we mentioned, with no one on the tower, that push not going to get forced. And so, with it being 2-0 for YIPPIEE, it looks like we'll not see a game 3 here on Rainmaker Sturgeon Shipyard. Would like to remind y'all this is double elimination, so it looks like they will be sent down into the losers side of the bracket, which will be, again, I believe, starting out best of 3 for much of the loser side of the bracket, all the way, I believe, to losers finals. Whereas in winners, we will be picking up to best of 5 starting in the next round, round 2. So again, big congratulations to YIPPIEE, who, as we mentioned, controlled the vast majority of that game too.
Honestly, and they did it pretty commandingly. They really just held on and didn't really provide any opportunities for Octopi, and Octopi really struggled to get anything moving properly until like that last minute, where it felt like they just got filled with that panic that, oh no, there's only a minute left in the game and we don't have any points on the board. Oh no, we need to get some points on the board if we have any chance of doing this. And it felt like Octopi was just spending a lot of resources trying to get into mid and going down just a little too early, and YIPPIEE was doing a fantastic job of just rushing back in and taking advantage of the momentum that their teammates were creating to just wall them off in mid.
Yeah, you bring up two, I think, very consistent points that happen a lot in a tournament setting of momentum and pressure. And momentum can extend, throughout an entire series, but it can also swing quite quickly within a game itself. And so if something goes the entire 5 minutes or longer, it's very important to try and shift it as often as you can and not get bogged down. It feels like a lot of teams sometimes have blinders on to try and force one push that may not even be their last opportunity to be the one, throwing all of their resources in to try and make that push, the one that wins the game. And while sometimes that may work, sometimes that leads the other team to, again, with that sort of pendulum effect, have an even stronger counter push going the opposite way because they start to layer their specials in, and you have maybe a trickling effect from the team that overextended in that way. So, and one thing I like to mention too about Proving Grounds is how well they do with their seeding. That was the only match, I believe, in round 1 that was an upset from the intended seeding there. We have YIPPIEE, who was the 9th seed, taking down the 8th seeded Octopi. As a result, they will be taking on the number 1 overall seed in Spin in round 2, who had a bye. And our next match, as you can see on screen there, is going to be the 4v5 matchup. Both of their teams, TKAK and Essence, winning their round 1 matches handily 2-0 in a sweep. So this one should be fun.
Oh dang, yeah. And I mean, I'm always impressed you, as you were saying, with the seeding in PG. Just the knowledge that the TOs for this tournament have to be able to get it as close as they often do is always just impressive. I'm always just a little, I don't know, flabbergasted at how close they can get it, if not a little offended. You go and you play the tournament on your own, and you're like, yeah, their seed is wrong. They didn't seed me properly. And then you have to kind of sit back and eat your ego sandwich.
Wow, and you've had tons of experience with just the player perspective side of things and going into all kinds of tournaments and seeing, different TOs with different methods, I'm sure, of seeding and, what they look at for their criteria and how much of it is, as we keep mentioning, momentum-based versus, just more long-term results-based. And so, as we mentioned before, this one will start to be best of 5 and will start for this series with Clam Blitz. So a mode that we haven't gotten to see yet in this tournament will be starting on Scorch Gorge, which feels like a tournament favorite for this mode especially. And then moving on to guarantee ourselves at least the 2 modes we already saw in round 1. So Splat Zones on Inkbot Art Academy. So we're actually trading modes for Inkbot this time around. And then game 3, we'll see Tower Control on Hagglefish Market, one of those maps that felt just kind of right going into Splatoon 3, one that I think a lot of players sort of got accustomed to and adjusted to quite quickly.
Honestly, Hagglefish has always felt to me like Starfish main stage, but if it had no verticality. Or less verticality, I guess.
One of those tricky grates that you can sort of do those weird flanks on, right?
Yeah, exactly. It has weird flanks on the left and the right side with a giant open platform in the middle that you have to hope you can paint in time.
Yes.
And some nice perches in the back for some chargers to sit on and make your life awful. But it just feels like Starfish main stage if the stage were shorter.
Yeah, and I saw the vision for Starfish. Like, you have a very centralized, if not quite small, sniper perch. You don't have those nice lanes on each side, because as you mentioned, they're interrupted by those just pits straight into the water. So you have to kind of make those awkward, like, I got to go up, I got to walk around the grate, or I got to try and make a jump. And then if somebody's, watching that side, I'm in the middle of an animation, so I'm just kind of screwed. Whereas for Hagglefish, you have your two very straightforward alleyways on the left and right. You've got your uninkable tarp there for any sniper players that are trying to contest mid. If you have mid control, you have little cubbies that you can place wave breaker, which a lot of those longer range weapons tend to have, or just kind of position yourself to do some right peeking. And then of course with our first map, Scorch Gorge, this one sort of keeps, I think, the theme of aggression in tow here. It's a little bit of a more open square space, but really with the basket being so relatively forward, you don't get that spawn play as much if you're not just absolutely dominating the other team. So it's very back and forth, and mid control just becomes that much more important.
Absolutely. And I mean, the thing with Scorch Gorge too is I like to talk about this map as being, it's fairly attacker-sided once you get into the enemy spawn. You have to fight uphill to go defend your own basket, which is typically not a position you want to be in, especially against things like crab tanks. But on the other hand, they balance it by having the clam spawns in mid so far spaced apart that in order to maintain a push on the clam basket, you have to maintain control of not only the enemy spawn, but also of mid, and just keep running back and forth with those clams, which can be a very difficult balance for especially newer teams to try to find. I find newer teams especially struggle with when and how to get their clams moving properly.
Tell your kids that you had to go uphill both ways to make it to the objective here on Scorch Gorge, as we're already seeing a couple of quick picks here from Essence. That's 2 down, as KitKat's going to make use, I believe, of that Inkjet here. That's another splat there on Decane, with the Killer Whale still at the ready, comfortably sitting behind that wall, as the barricade is going to go down just in the first 30 seconds. Essence still holding on to 10 total clams. They might try and condense those. However, one of their main carriers being the Octobrush is going to go down. That's going to lose some of that momentum. However, they're 52 still hanging on to a fair bit and getting the picks as well. Lily, you mentioned attacker sided. This one is that proof in the pudding right there.
I mean, a note too for the 52 gal up here on the right-hand side who just went down was actually inside the enemy spawn, preventing anyone from approaching the basket, allowing Essence to push all the way down to 32 on their first push. Going down to 29 now in the first minute of the game is almost unheard of on this map. It is so hard to get the clam control to be able to control that.
Yeah, incredibly difficult and rare, as you mentioned, to see a push this early on. However, it might happen right again, as we're seeing deja vu. KitKat once again providing the pressure on the Inkjet to open the way for the entirety of Essence to go through. It looks like they may be standing around waiting for something. Was wondering if there was a DC and quickly checked up top to see that there was not. Essence going to lose once again their Octobrush here, as they're waiting for the right opportunity to get in there with their power clams that are sitting with that end zap. Kane trying to make something work here and dodge out of the way of the Killer Whale, but it's not quite going to happen. And just the pressure being put on by Essence and the layering of their specials right now is immense.
It's honestly unreal. Looking at the comps, though, it doesn't really surprise me that Essence is dominating this matchup. TKAK's whole comp seems to be centered around weapons that like to hold from afar or pop up and get you real close. But to do that, they need the paint to do that, and really their only painting weapon is the Splashmatic.
Yeah, what do you... I mean, you have a Carbon, which desperately needs it, and a Snipe Rider, which needs the room and the positioning to be able to do that. And so, Essence able to get the pop there. They're not going to be able to continue past 24 and have a Power Clam's worth of penalty get put their way. This match has felt very one-sided as we've hit the halfway mark here. TKAK trying to take some of that map control back. As you mentioned, really, it's going to be mainly their Neo Splash trying to help with that. However, Kane starting to get some picks, and they may find a second. Just another member of Essence is going to jump right to their doom. 3-down situation forced now against Essence. And finally, TKAK doing some jumping of their own despite losing a member. I think finally they'll pop the barricade themselves.
Honestly, and that's good, all the way down to 62 just in a blink of an eye. Not quite what they need to get that lead. They still have quite a bit of work to do here with 3 members down. It looks like this is going to be the end of that push, but it's a good start, especially 2 minutes left in this game. They certainly have the time left to do it. The pencil here from TKAK backing up enough to get a really sneaky pick there from the aggressors of Essence, but I don't know if Essence is going to let them get away with a push like that again. It looks like really they just managed to get in there quickly and pick off as soon as they were able to with that carbon roller.
You know, once again, as we spectated Kit Kat there and now Swirl, you can see the aggression is able to be forced out a little bit on the side of TKAK. You know, and in part, you know, you wonder how it's going to come through some of these duels that come out. I think TKAK going 3 down there, but prior to that, they had such a good opportunity to get map control because of not just the NZAP, but also the unique position that the Anarchy Splattershot Nova is in to sort of provide also mid to long range pressure while also having the Inkjet to really push forward where needed, where other sort of support weapons like the NZAP really can't do as much here. Essence having some team members having to jump out as they're holding on to maybe their largest share of clams this game so far with 15, just a penalty of 10 as we get to 35 seconds left in this one. It's really going to come down to this fight here to see who has a chance to score once again.
Looks like 2 down the side of TKAK. Essence might find their chance here to try to push towards that lead. The ball coming in right behind Salty. Gonna come in off that Crab in this beautiful position on the enemy snipe here, pushing all the way down to 34. The brush coming in from behind might put a little stall on this, but they do manage to take the lead, and 10 seconds left on the clock. This might be the time to back out and get ready for a defense. 2 players down means that they're going to have to get in position to get ready for TKAK just to rush them.
YIPPIEE just barely able to get out there, and that life is going to be very important, as you mentioned, Lily. So attacker-sided once it gets down to it. I guess Essence playing the long con, but they have to defend here against even 2 clams would flip this one on its head, and the ones that held clams go down. It's just going to be the 52, and they fall. The NZAP with no one to jump to is going to not be able to find a way over, and with that being said and done, it's going to be a come-from-behind victory here, as we see a beautiful job there. Nicely done to hold on to that one. YIPPIEE, I think, jumping back, that really helped to save what could have been a tricky defense, again, from just 2 power clams. That would have been enough to take that lead.
Absolutely. I was a little nervous there when I saw them move to the right side of their plat, getting ready for a defense, and you're already not in the place where people are going to be running at you from. I started to sweat just a little bit seeing that football come in and open the thing right up. They made me nervous, but I am glad in the end they got back in front of everything. They had the pencil ready. They had the walls ready. They ignored the Zipcaster acknowledging that he couldn't get any clams in his current state. And they did a fantastic job on that defense. They let the ball slip through, but they didn't let the clam slip through, and I'll give them that one.
Yeah, I think if there's any mode in which I'm thankful to be a spectator, I think Clam Blitz is one of them, because we, of course, get the overhead view. We get to be like, oh, there's clams there, and if they just swim over here, they can pick it up, and then they're fine, and that's where the enemy's positioned. But when you're in, the player view, you don't see that. You're trying to make sense of the comms from your team. You're trying to figure out where the enemy team is positioned, or if they're trying to rush back from spawn. You're trying to coordinate if you need to have the clams be thrown almost in like a line to each other to make sure they get to the basket. It's really tough. And so you can say something like, oh, they just needed 2 clams in order to take the lead. That sounds easy, right? But you have to think about all of the obstacles that you have to overcome in order to get there. So no wonder we had a great start there, a come-from-behind victory that has now led us into Game 2 in this best-of-5 series. Going to be going to Splat Zones on Inkbot Art Academy, another one that may see lots and lots of action in the middle of the ring.
Absolutely. And I'm interested to see what some of these weapons switch to, like the pencil, for example. We're seeing a lot of play coming out from the pencil, especially in solo queue. I feel like the weapon is gaining some traction. I'm not entirely sure where that traction came from, because it seems like
Sort of
everyone
propaganda,
was.
probably.
It must be. It feels like everyone was in an agreement that the pencil just wasn't very good, and now all of a
Yeah.
sudden there's some pencils showing up, and I'm like, okay, are we getting to the point where people are practicing it more and actually acknowledging where it might be useful? And if that's the case, do we see it here? Does it have the ability, the range, and the pressure to be able to hold from top mid? It does look like we're going to see a switch to the ZF Charger, which on this map, I agree, is probably a better decision.
Yeah, one of those questions answered for sure. We will not be seeing the Snipe Rider, which I did see a tweet from famed Splatoon player Bagel, who said that Tacticooler is probably the only thing in the meta that feels even a little bit overtuned right now, which if, you're the Snipe Rider, which has Tacticooler, this is probably your best chance to see any play. But unfortunately, it will not be a 2-game straight show for that weapon. As you mentioned, we're going to see the Z+F splatter scope instead, and an early start here for Essence, who's going to get a couple of picks there onto TKAK, and with that, the first couple of ticks of the zone, even with the Slosher holding on to the Tri-Strike, and they're going to not rest on their laurels even. They're going to use that aggressively on the enemy plat to make sure that they're not able to get anywhere close. That also allows their second set of Tri-Strikes to go off, as well as the Crab Tank. It's an absolute party of special in mid here atop that box.
I really just want to highlight Nilla's gameplay there. Fantastic job pulling through, getting some picks off of and pressure off of their teammates there. And then the team whole just swung there. It must have been some amazing comms in chat to be able to recognize Salty's flank coming out. It does look like we have 2 down on Essence. This might be the time where they have to back off that zone, give up that control, but it doesn't look like they'll be out of it for very long. The Suka putting in some work over here, able to get a few more picks, but the Carbon's gonna have to get out of that one. Looking a little messy on the right side.
Hey, they get out of dodge, they save their life, and once again, we go back to spectating KitKat on the Inkjet, but it's going to be Trout, it looks like, holding it down. That's something that if you have a Charger player on your team, they are sort of the president you need to protect, proverbially speaking. Salty now going to be back on that Crab Tank, sort of doing dual duty here, dual purpose to get a pick there onto Toti and also help to try and control the zone here. Kane not with enough maneuverability and room to get any picks there, but it is just enough for at least the time being to stop control of the zone. But with that splat right on top of the zone, Lily, the push continues for TKAK.
That's going to be the lead swing for TKAK for sure. There's no chance Essence has time to get into mid to neutralize that zone, and there goes lead. But they do have, 2 players down, 3 players down. That's actually probably going to be game for TKAK. There's no shot that Essence can get back in time to retake that one. I'm not entirely sure. I think that's the momentum we were talking about earlier, Zach. I think they looked at the dictionary definition of momentum and they were like, oh, I see. We just swing it.
Yeah, not only that, but I think reading about how every action has an equal or opposite reaction, as we see a great opening start there and then just an absolute bulldoze all the way through. I think basically from 100 to 0, there was, again, that little halt, that little hesitation, but with the Carbon going down right on top of the zone, that was sort of the final nail in the coffin to make sure that the zone would be painted in their favor, and not even the Tri-Strike right on top of the zone was able to save them there or stall out even the zone for very long. So that's going to be a quick run back there from TKAK to tie this set up at 1 apiece, and it's going to guarantee us our game 4 and also guarantee that we see Rainmaker here in these first 2 rounds. However, before we get there, Lily, we have to go to tower control on Hagglefish Market. Maybe a little bit of a difference from what we've been seeing in these first 2 maps.
Honestly, looking at the maps as a whole right now, I'm seeing our first map is one that can be fairly back and forth. The 3 in the middle are all very, very momentum based, and the last one is going to be one very back and forth. So if you get to game 5, this is going to be incredibly stressful, not only for the teams, but for us as commentators. But for now, Tower Control and Hagglefish Market is one of those maps that if you break past that wall, snowballs very quickly. And that wall in particular on this map is the second checkpoint. Once you get past that second checkpoint, if you can get a secure hold around that second checkpoint, things can fall incredibly quickly. And it makes me nervous every time when I see teams do it. But it looks like we're already getting into a bloodbath in mid. 3 down on TKAK and almost the same on the side of Essence.
Yeah, both teams sort of coming to a mutual agreement of let's just meet in mid and see what happens there, except for the Stamper, who tried to go down their left-hand side alleyway and met just an absolute brute force defense squad there, not able to get any control whatsoever, no room to swim around in, and that sort of started the whole thing there. Despite that, just a push of 98 for Essence as TKAK is going to run it back. They will lose their Splattershot Nova here, but they still, of course, have the end zap or had the end zap, and they almost, it looked like, got crushed by the Carbon Roller, who's going to put on a show here. Kane, not deterred by a couple of difficulties there in game 2. They're going to keep using this one to see if they can bring it back for Essence here in game 3.
TKAK falling like dominoes as Essence approaches this first checkpoint. Looks like they're going to break it fairly uncontested. Not a whole lot of specials ready, no specials ready to be able to take this one, and not a whole lot of players moved up against the aggression. So we're going to approach the second checkpoint. Looks like pausing for a moment to try to get some picks, and this is honestly probably a good time to drop it for now. You don't want to put too much into a push and lead to that counter swing momentum that allows a equal and opposite counter push. So giving up that space just for now to allow things to settle a little bit could prove to be smart for Essence.
Yeah, once again, astutely predicted by yourself there, Lily, where the second checkpoint became super pivotal. And I think a lot of teams opt to not stay on the tower when they're being beset upon, because usually when you win that first team fight, it might be around there, if you're able to keep them off at the first checkpoint, that some specials might need to be dealt with from the team that's defending. And now it's sort of back to a neutral game here as each team's able to find one apiece, looking for a second one now as we see the ball rolling around trying to survive here. That's most of what we've seen them do, actually. I think we've seen them roll around in ball form just as much as we've seen the Crab actually shoot.
Honestly, there are so many weapons and specials now that are catered towards just being a check towards that Crab tank that it can be incredibly difficult if you pop in the wrong spot to maintain the Crab's position. So it doesn't surprise me to see them having to ball up a little bit more defensively, but I would love to see them maybe choose their Crab positions a little bit more tightly, I guess.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I think by design, because Crab Tank was so oppressive for so long that it took them buffing many of the specials that had offensive capabilities in order to take it down. And speaking of specials with an offensive edge there, Dennis going to try and make something out of the Zipcaster, having to content themselves with a couple of attempts at pot shots from a distance before they get sent back. But the tower in the meantime going to get to that first checkpoint. It's just going to be enough range there to take them out. Kane going to look for an angle here with that tactical boost. It will be enough to take down Swirl. Going to have to try for something here. They threw a burst bomb at one of the members there of TKAK and had to back off now. Has the Inkzuka at the ready. It's going to be Inkzuka versus Inkjet versus Tri-Strike as well. And with that distraction, going to take down the menace that has been KitKat on that Inkjet. So nicely done there. And now Essence with an opportunity to at least stall things out, if not try and push the tower again.
Honestly, that's kind of what they need here. A 44 push is not even remotely safe on this map. A minute left in the game. If we're going to continue to have bloodbaths like this, I really worry about one of these teams gathering the momentum to push it all the way. So, and if I'm Essence here, I don't want to sit at the 44 mark. The closer we get to 30 seconds on this game, the more nervous I'm going to get. You cannot hold a defense for that long without making a mistake.
Well, nerves high now, I'm sure, for both teams as we've entered down past the 1 minute mark here. Dennis with that Zipcaster at the ready once again. They've also got the tactical boost. It's 3v3 as one side has lost a member each. Now trying to move forward here with, again, a layering of specials, trying to make something happen here just right on top of the tower. Doesn't seem to find anything yet. That Zipcaster is popped in a very predictable spot, so they have to be careful that they're not taken out. It was basically right in the open, which is super dangerous unless you know you're not going to be contended with, and Dennis will eventually fall. Maybe not as a result of that, but just to the offensive capabilities that Carbon Deco has when you're right in front of their face in the last 15 seconds.
Man, the Carbon really proving its trapdoor spider capabilities there, but it does look like TKAK is going to grab the tower and start pushing. They do have the first checkpoint already cleared, so they really just need to approach and get that touch, the second checkpoint even. They don't even really need to clear it. So the trip strike's coming out a little earlier than I would like to see, and 2 players down. This looks like it's lead for TKAK, and that is the game. Like I was saying, it's so hard to hold a defense, especially in Splatoon 3. To hold that defense for more than a minute and not make a mistake, is incredibly difficult.
Yeah, as you mentioned, 44 not ending up being safe, and it took overtime, but it will be TKAK coming through again with that victory there. That's 2 in a row now. And you sort of mentioned almost a map sandwich there between 1 and 5 being the bread and 2 through 4 being the meat. And right now, TKAK is absolutely enjoying a feast of meat as they look to get through this set in 4 games. It would be Rainmaker, Humpback, Pump Track that would be sort of their crowning victory here. And based on, again, what you've sort of allocated those maps to, this is maybe the make or break time here for TKAK, not only based on a momentum perspective, but also just how well this map seems to suit their playstyle, even if game 3 was a little bit back and forth compared to some of the others.
Yeah, this one truly is going to be the tell, I think. If Essence can't find a way to break the momentum and to hold that defense, and that's what makes me nervous, is having watched them try to hold a defense for the past couple games, I really worry about Rainmaker Humpback Pump Track, because once you get around that corner on the left-hand side, everyone swings through that choke with the Rainmaker, and it's so difficult to hold against the pressure of specials and weapons just barreling around that corner. I truly worry about their ability to hold it off. And no slight against them. It truly is difficult to hold against a barrage on that corner. And it takes a lot of practice and a lot of strategic talks and a lot of insight, I think, to be able to hold against that defense or even prevent it from happening in the first place. So it makes me nervous, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe Essence the past couple games has been like, okay, we know what we're doing wrong. We got this.
Yeah, on a defensive perspective, I think the changes, between Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3 for this map, you had in Splatoon 2 that very far left-hand side sort of small wall that you could climb up as another opportunity or way to get in. And I don't think you really have that so much in Splatoon 3. It really just is that sort of hard curve around the turn there to get to an open straight shot to the Rainmaker pedestal. However, as in Splatoon 2, you're basically having to cross right in front of the opposing team's spawn in order to make that happen. So weapons that are able to have an impact just straight from that drop down into where you can see the path to the Rainmaker pedestal is going to be super important, and probably another one of those maps where pushes that seem late, like into the 30s and maybe 20s, for example, aren't necessarily going to be safe, because it is just a smaller map when you look at just possible Rainmaker paths, unless you're doing something completely crazy to get around that. So really going to be difficult. You're going to have to bring maybe that. I like chargers here pretty well. There is a lip that is designed, sort of a couple actually, but one, straight down from your spawn that's sort of designed to be able to hit mid. E-leaders can do it. I'm sure splatter shots or splatter scopes rather can get close. And then if you want to bring back something like a Nautilus again that has maybe the option or the impact, whether you're guarding the Rainmaker or whether you're sort of in that defensive stance, that may behoove you more, along with having, of course, your typical like NZAP or Tactical or Builder. I'm not sure how quickly Snipe Rider is building up Tactical these days, but maybe that gives you that long range option that you need without sacrificing the Tactical, or we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I mean, you're also gonna have to watch out very carefully for things like the inkjets or
Yes.
the
Well, not only that, let's keep an eye on who is able to pop the Rainmaker shield here. Both teams trying hard at it, but it looks like it will be Essence who gets the edge there. They are going to be sticking with the Carbon Roller Deco, as well as the Slosher here, so they're going to have the triple Ink Strike to maybe carve a path out at the beginning. We're seeing immediately that Inkjet from KitKat there on that Splattershot Nova Anarchy version, but they will go down without too much to show for it. They will get something on the Carbon, but Essence going to be able to push the Rainmaker here first, having a little bit of trouble with Toady there, but they're able to get it with the Rainmaker, so maybe an early start here as Essence taking their time to ensure they can get to this first checkpoint safely.
Now, there are 3 right around this corner, so this might not be a full clear of this checkpoint like we would hope, but the checkpoint isn't the worst one to try to tackle. Really, it is getting around that corner that's the bigger challenge. So even though they didn't quite get that check yet, I'm not super worried about this. If they can stay up in mid and not go down to TKAK coming in, they should be okay.
Yeah, seldom have I seen a match of Rainmaker here on Humpback that has not at least had one team grab that first checkpoint here, with it being so close to mid where the Rainmaker spawns. It's going to be each team trading on a member, the Slosher for the Splatana there. So just a couple of offensive weapons there, that 52 and the carbon. And as I say that, both are going to go down. So the equivalent weapon type sort of trading each other out here, as it looks like TKAK maybe trying to build up some map control in the middle here. The Slosher tried to stay alive there to see if they could build that triple ink strike, but nothing doing. It's going to be KitKat not only going for that, but trying to take out the crab, just barely missing their shot, I think, in order to fully take them out of that crab form. However, in the meantime, TKAK going to grab the Rainmaker and have their first shot at it, with some of their other members being able to make use of that tacticaler. And not just that, a full wipeout forced against Essence, and Lily, that checkpoint gained.
Honestly, gained, and that corner has been swung so quickly. I wouldn't be surprised if we touch the pedestal here, all the way down to 12, with 2 players still up on either side. Make that 1 left on Essence. This might be game. Almost, all the way down to 4. And that's not a position I want to be in if I'm Essence. TKAK pushing all the way down to 4, 2.5 minutes left of the game. With how close this has been already in mid, I would not want to be them, knowing I have to essentially dunk the Rainmaker in order to win this game.
Yeah, going to be very, very difficult. Going to require either, like you said, a KO or maybe an overtime push, trying to get on top of that first checkpoint, and they will, despite some aggression there. It looked like maybe from the NZAP or the Anarchy Nova, which went down there. So that's going to be 2 gone on the side of TKAK. No specials built up. Dennis getting a pick there on the Kane, but not finding anything else. They're going to try and see if they can get the Rainmaker in a good position, but mid here, not really in the state that they would like it to be. Again, Lily, you probably have to watch out for those flanks coming from behind them while playing Protect the President with that Rainmaker, and they waited a bit too long, maybe intentionally there, just to see if they could help things back in mid. But either way, that Rainmaker will go right back to the middle of the map.
Again, Essence is running a composition that it really only has 1 painting weapon, which always makes me a little nervous. Especially in a map like this that has so many curves, they're leaving a lot of gaps in the ink that's giving TKAK a lot of places to shark and just watch what's happening before they commit to something. And that moment to be able to just breathe and assess your options before taking action can be pivotal, especially in a fast-paced moving game like Splatoon.
And here's the Inkvac. The Inkvac, I think, receiving a couple of buffs as of late, trying to bring it up into a pretty good place there, along with the meta of special weapons here. There are a couple of teammates, including themselves, going to go down. They'll lose the Slosher, and before that, they lost the Vanilla Splashomatic. Effectively a delayed wipe there by TKAK against Essence. So they're not only going to have that, but they're going to have a couple specials online. So the Inkjet's going to come back out from KitKat. They're going to have the Tactical in mid. Salty's going to go down here. And once again, they don't have that first checkpoint to contend with. Despite all that, they lose basically everybody. It's only the Splatana Stamper that's able to get out, and they go down from Kane here. So what a turnaround here made by Essence in the face of adversity.
Honestly, some specials coming out, some people in behind, and Essence is doing their best to ignore them. The Bazooka coming out, paving the way for that Rainmaker to get all the way down to 10, but only the Carbon Roller up means that this push is pretty much over. There's no momentum that they were able to build, was just absolutely intense, and we, you know, Essence not being able to deal with the push to 4, I don't blame them. That is an intense push on this map to have to deal with in the first 2 minutes of the game. I do think we could have avoided that overtime being as intense as it was if TKAK would like some feedback here. I think popping the Rainmaker in mid and leaving it there when we were trying to mount a defense and keep the Rainmaker out of the hands of the enemy team, definitely a downside. I think I would have rather see them pick up that Rainmaker and move it to the right-hand side with them to move the Rainmaker further away. I think that would have helped diminish the stress of the end of that. But otherwise, I mean, they did a fantastic job on that defense. They did a fantastic job on their pushes, and the pressure was never ending.
Yeah, so tough. Again, we talked about hindsight and how we are so fortunate to have sort of the overhead view. And, you know, when you're feeling the heat of the timer, especially, I think in Rainmaker, maybe even a little bit better. It depends on when, of course, you pick the Rainmaker up, because that determines how much time past 0 seconds you have before you either Inksplode or someone on the enemy team takes you out, or you're able to get that lead or that knockout. So really managing those specials and having them go around, you know, and make as much of a path for the Rainmaker carrier as they could. We saw multiple members of Essence, I believe, as the Rainmaker went down, sitting atop high ground, not even really getting off of their high ground advantage coming down from spawn, meaning that they had enough of a range to contest the path that the Rainmaker was going to go on. Because as you mentioned, Lily, they basically had to touch the bottom of the pedestal in order to take that lead. So as long as they're painting well enough in front of that, it allows them to sort of hold on, and they can let, their shorter range, more aggressive weapons do the trick of really getting in their face and forcing the Rainmaker to go down there. So fantastic job. And that, I believe, was included in a slew of close sets in our winners round 2. Just looking at the bracket quickly here, I see the Rydia is annoying in the 6th seed. So will we see an upset here as we enter winners round 3, or will once again the seeding of IPL Splatoon and Proving Grounds show through to give us a 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeded winners round 3?
I don't think we can allow that. I feel like that's just too
I
good
like
for the
that
ego of
attitude.
IPL. I think we need to shake this up a little bit. I'm gonna hack in. I'm gonna DDoS someone on Velocity.
Yeah, give a little bit of extra tactical rebuffs here to Rydia's annoying here. YIPPIEE making it so close. I would have loved to see a 9 seed. That's basically the halfway point through this tournament of 17 teams. The seeding there, so close. I would love to see a team like YIPPIEE make it all the way through the winners round 3, having knocked off what would be the #1 overall seed, and that could still happen. Of course, this is double elimination, so they're just down in the loser side of the bracket. So YIPPIEE going to be taking on the 11th seed Pony Strikes in the 11th seeded position. Those are best of 3 matches. And then we have teams like Essence, who's going to take on the Backyardigans, and Take Your Meds, who's going to take on Ominous. While Octopi is still awaiting the loser of the match we just discussed, Velocity and Rydia is annoying. So again, going to be a very interesting show. Would love to see sort of that underdog story where in a tournament with a lot of teams that I personally haven't seen before, or even some pickups, would love to see that sort of miraculous losers bracket run. And the smaller those sets are, the more you tend to see some funky stuff, some miracles tend to happen.
It's much easier to pull a miracle off in a best of 3 than a best of 5 or a
Mhm.
best of 7. I feel like things can swing a lot faster, and momentum means so much more. The ability to adapt quickly means so much more in those smaller sets. So we're much more likely to see something weird happen. Like maybe we'll get a seed 11 facing seed 1 in Grands, and then I can stick it to Popgun, who's probably still on paternity leave. But just for the satisfaction of just knowing that the seating was a little off, even though Popgun probably didn't do it, I'm still gonna play Popgun.
That's sort of the way, I think. Once somebody's established themselves as the head honcho, no hiatus is gonna really take away
Exactly.
any, jest that they might receive.
Yeah,
And
that's why we still play
unfortunately,
Kmart.
the DDoS does not come through in
Aw.
time from Lily, as Velocity, just as Spin did, holding it down in game 5 to move on into winners round 3 and give us our 1, 4, 2, and 3 seeded winners portion of the bracket. So the upsets could still come, but so far we are seeing the seeding play out the way Popgun, whether on hiatus or not, likely intended.
Honestly, I can't believe this. I can't believe Popgun would do this to me specifically, and I am incredibly offended. So,
Lily's very
Popgun, you watch out.
targeted. Feels very targeted right now. We need to give
Yeah.
Lily some support here. I don't know how
Honestly, I came
Popgun
out
could
here
do
to have
this.
a good time, and I'm honestly feeling so attacked right now.
I love that meme.
Right? I feel like I
And we
haven't heard
have
it in about 15 years, so I thought I should bring it back.
But I've noticed, as you get older, the longevity, the lifespan of memes tends to get longer. You appreciate memes, even older memes, quite a bit down the line, much to the chagrin of maybe the younger audience there, as they're very quick and trendy. But
Yeah, all these young folks are mad that we keep bringing back these classic memes, and we're like, we can't help it. We're old.
Come on, yeah, they're classics for a reason. Lily and I just
Exactly.
shaking our walking sticks aggressively, get off our lawn type beat. But no, so we are going to be going to the closer seeded of the matchups. It looks like it will be InControl Red Sun at the 2 seed versus Velocity at the 3 seed. And again, in a best of 5, we'll be starting this one out, it looks like, with Splat Zones and potentially ending it with Splat Zones. A rather hotly contested winners round 2. So potentially a high chance that we could see a game 4 or even a game 5 here. So as you can see on your screen, Hagglefish to start out. Then we'll go to a couple maps. Actually, the rest of the maps that we haven't seen really on stream yet today, with Tower Control, Sturgeon Shipyard, and Rainmaker Undertow Spillway guaranteed, with Clamblitz and Splat Zones to finish us out if needed for games 4 and 5.
Have you been hearing about some of the controversy on the Twitters about TC Sturgeon?
Or X, as it is forced to be called now.
No, I refuse. I'm old.
I've heard, from essentially since Splatoon 2 came out, that Sturgeon was a hot topic for a variety of reasons. But what's the tea now?
The past couple days, more so I think today and yesterday, I've just been seeing some grumbling, some stirrings on Twitter about how TC Sturgeon and Sturgeon in general just isn't a good map. Now, I do think they've made some improvements over it since Splatoon 2. There's a lot more ways to defend easily, but on the counter side, there are a lot of specials in Splatoon 3 that really lent to the snowball of TC Sturgeon, so I can kind of see where they're coming from. But it's just interesting to see it. I mean, we're like a year into this game now, and all of a sudden I'm just seeing some tweets here and there, just some grumbles,
That's when I mean, the folks have really taken their time. They're not even looking that crazily at the new maps to dissect them. They're just like, all right, let's take a look at this map that's been in the game since the last iteration of this series and see what's wrong with it. If I had to think of pros, it's a nice sort of linear map. You get a sort of differentiated shape. You sort of have a longer way to come back from, which can provide some interesting moments, and it makes team fights that much more impactful. If you're playing something like Rainmaker, I like that you can sort of make that sort of hero jump from the box over to the far side. Of course, this being TC, it's on a fixed path, but and then it gives certain weapons opportunities to excel. If you have beacons, this is a good beacon map. You can place them in some funky spots. There's some good sprinkler spots as well. But my biggest con is that I'm bad at this map, and therefore I hate it.
Yeah, and I, as a member of Train Line, have trauma involving this map, so I hate it.
Yes. So, and of course, you've played it in a tournament setting more than many people, most, I would say. So, I think your opinion is credible enough for a scholarly journal.
Yes. I've had my butt kicked on this map a number of times.
I do think not in big tournaments.
I do think they've made some improvements over it since Splatoon 2. I do think it's better now than it ever has been, and I appreciate it more now than I did in Splatoon 2. Whether or not it sticks around in the competitive meta, I guess we'll have to see how long the grumbles continue, because that's really the judge, right? Every once in a while someone will grumble about how something sucks, but then it gets removed from the pools. We'll see. But enough about TC Sturgeon. We're not even there yet. We're on Zones Hagglefish, which, as we talked about earlier, is Starfish Mini.
Oftentimes, as you mentioned, those grumbles can turn into large and loud groans, which we have to be careful of. But we'll start again with a map that does tend to receive praise here, and let's take a look at the composition. So some similar stuff to what we've been seeing on the side of Velocity. We've seen the Octobrush, we've seen quite a few splatter shots, and also the vanilla Splash-O-Matic there. We have the Sea-Jet to round out that composition. That's going to be sort of their backline weapon of choice. And on the opposite side of things, the Slosher and the NZAP, pretty common choices, and rounded out by something that's been very popular in the last several months, that ballpoint Splatling with the Inkjet that's become quite dreaded, even despite a nerf or two in the most recent patches.
The nerfs weren't enough to completely kill the special, and I'm sure that is the intention as well. Ballpoint now, not quite as overpowering as it was a patch ago, but still pretty strong and pretty necessary in a map like this. I'm really interested to see how the Sea-Jet plays out. It does look like we get a cap over here from Velocity, but Red Sun I don't think is going to let that go on for too long.
It always astounds me when I'm watching a weapon like the Octobrush, how much they just fly by the seat of their pants. It must be so stressful, and you really need to have a quicker mind than mine to be able to play the weapon there. The Slosher, as you can see, they're a little bit more my speed there. Mine are able to take down Sam. You get a little bit more of the range. You get a little bit more of the pace in terms of time between your shots, and the Tactical boost certainly helps. And not just that, but they, along with the ballpoint, have their specials at the ready as they're looking to take this lead over. However, they will lose that tri-strike there. It will go down. As we see here, the zone being overtaken once again. It's going to be Velocity cleaning things up and trying to get that lead back as they work through their penalty here and even claim some parts of the alleyway that they might have missed.
For sure. We're definitely seeing some back and forth here. That was a quicker retake from Red Sun than I would have expected. I'm not entirely sure how all of Velocity went down in the blink of an eye, but they sure did. And two members of Red Sun already up in the enemy plat here, extending this lead. Now, this is what is the really interesting part about this map. It's the holds. The retakes on this map are incredibly difficult if you have a team that knows how to do their holds properly. And from what I'm seeing so far, Red Sun is doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, this is one of those maps where the re-entries back to the objective, especially on splat zones where it's completely centralized, are very predictable. So you really have to be careful. Both of these teams sort of throwing caution to the wind, however, both going down to a piece here, but Velocity getting some jump-ins, and Beam, with the range of this NZAP, not able to contest. So despite the boost from the Tacticaler, they're going to allow the jump-ins. They quickly claim control of the zone, and they are actually working down this penalty. I guess you can attribute that to the high fire rate and the great actual paint output there from that weapon. And now, as you mentioned, Lily, just an absolute bloodbath. That's going to be 3 down a side, and the zone, at least for the moment, will sit unperturbed before Velocity picks it back up.
I think, honestly, the big difference between these two teams right now, from what I'm seeing, is the difference in the holds. Red Sun seems to have no problem just walking up and almost retaking this zone incredibly quickly, which is a rarity on this map, because normally the holds are so powerful. We're just not quite seeing the presence of Velocity far enough forward to be able to keep Red Sun from touching the zone. And I think it's really hurting them at this point. They don't have the biggest penalty ever, but going 3 down with 1.5 minutes left and still a penalty to go, it doesn't make me the happiest.
Yeah, even though this is a best of 5, those little mistakes add up over time. And what that's added up to right now is InControl Red Sun getting rid of their entire penalty, able to work through the rest of it. They also have the tri-strike at the ready. It's going to be countered on the opposite side of things with the crab tank here. I believe from Prim is going to push, or Sam is going to push forward here and try and get something done on the zone. And they have to, because InControl Red Sun's about to hit single digit, stopped just shy of that at 12 as we're about to enter the minute mark. The Storm down on the zone as well, but now it's InControl Red Sun that's able to get the jump ins right before Krim is able to pop that inkjet. Going to be able to find one there onto Dad Kid. There's a second one on a Bronze. Going to be looking for another one there, but the timer runs out. Despite that, they'll have the tactical boost, and with 45 seconds left to go, we could still see a knockout here if everything goes InControl Red Sun's way.
40 seconds left on the clock, and there's maybe one chance left, if that, for Velocity to retake this, and they're going to have to do it fairly quickly. From how Red Sun's holds have been going so far, I don't see this going easy, but the specials of flying at Red Sun are going to interrupt that zone and maybe cap it. It looks like there's just enough ink on that zone to be able to maintain it somehow through that rain, and Red Sun's going to take our first game of the night.
Yeah, nicely done there. We barely talked about the weapon that we spectated at the very end of that push, which was the Splatoon Wiper Deco there. Great entry tool, of course, when you have sort of a more linear map like this one. Tenta Missiles is a great tool to be able to sort of find where your enemies are located, if not to maybe even get the stray or the occasional splat there. And what did we talk about too? We talked about how do we get back in? You talked about the difficulty of getting back into the objective, especially when it's splat zones in mid and it's not moving well. If you have Beacon, that gives you another opportunity. We saw the jump-ins plenty from both teams, but just having that extra option, maybe it doesn't even need to be on the zone or next to it in one of the alleyways. Even if you're just getting a little bit of time advantage from one spot in your raised part of your spawn to another, just that little bit of time save could be enough to get you back in time to turn the tide of a fight. So nice job there. Surgeon Shipyard, again, we've already talked about it a lot, but this could be another map where, you know, with how long it is and how difficult it can be to get back when you don't have someone to jump to, beacons could be another alternative. And so nice job there to InControl Red Sun in somewhat of a back and forth match to bring that one to their favor in game one.
Looking at the rest of the maps in this lineup, I'm feeling I'm gonna call it now. I'm going to call a Red Sun sweep. Um,
Hmm.
Judging by how we saw that first game play, Velocity felt a little hesitant to move as far up forward as I would have liked to see, especially on a map like Hagglefish Zones, especially with some of the specials that they had. I would have liked to see a more forward defense. And maps like Sturgeon Control, Tower Control is one of those maps where you very much have to be ahead of that tower and you have to be very far forward to maintain that aura of protection around your tower. And Rainmaker Undertow Spillway is the same way. You want to be as far forward as you can without leaving your objective unprotected. And judging by how these two teams were playing in the first game, Red Sun seemed a lot more willing to be as far forward as possible without giving up too much ground, and Velocity seemed a little too hesitant. So unless Velocity, puts on the big pants, gets the big pants buttoned up and ready to go, I think they might just need a little more confidence in this matchup. But I would love to see them just pick themselves up and go, okay, Red Sun's very far forward and aggressive, so will we be.
I think there's several things that I admire about your style, but one of them is definitely the ability to make those courageous calls. I'm very bad about making predictions like that. I just kind of want things to go to a game 5 and sort of hope it plays out that way. But you backed it up with quite a bit of important fact there. And I think seeing the similarities between at least, these first 3 maps all kind of have that similar shape. Rainmaker Undertow has become very popular as a map mode combination in Splatoon 3. You have the couple of different ways that you can take it. You have the more preferred sort of left-hand side. You go around the horseshoe where you go around the unequal bridge, but sometimes teams will plant it on the right-hand side just to get that first checkpoint out of the way. In tower control, you don't have that. It's on that predetermined set path. But I think for this map, the earlier you can nip these pushes in the bud, and clearly that's kind of common sense, right? But what I mean for this map is once you get to where it really opens up sort of the opposing team's court area, it becomes a lot easier for you to sort of lock that area down, especially if you have a Splatling or a Charger that can get on top of those grates and watch the people that are coming down from spawn that have to jump off of those ramps or even traverse down those ramps the long way. It's very, very difficult to sort of make that happen. When you're still in mid and you're getting to those first couple checkpoints, it can be easier to sort of be unpredictable, pull off some of those flanks. So that, I think, would be my tip is nip those early pushes in the bud if you're trying to play a good defense.
Absolutely. I think it's the duality of this map. You have you kind of have options. That first checkpoint really means nothing, but the second checkpoint means everything. So sometimes it's worth throwing a lot of resources at that first checkpoint to stop it before it becomes a problem.
And take a look at the compositions here. So we are going to see the Tri-Slosher come out. That's going to give them the Inkjet that will potentially counter the one provided by InControl's ballpoint Splatling here. The Slosher for InControl in trouble there, and they're going to go down as we see Kite push forward and try to get a 1 pick there. There's going to be 1 onto Nico, not quite getting the second, just barely out of range. And not only that, it's going to be the ballpoint picking off Sam and getting the boost, also getting that kid. So you can see, even from a closer range, just how impactful, and not just that, but how accurate, not just their aim, but the weapon itself can be in those tough situations.
Red Sun really is a team that's been gaining a lot of momentum lately in general. They've been taking a lot of really big tournaments. They've been moving forward and scrimming stronger and stronger opponents. They've gained a lot of knowledge and a lot of skill in a very short period of time, and they always just surprise me with how far they've come. Now, looking here, they've forward up on versus 2 on the other side for Velocity, and we've already touched that second checkpoint with Crim up on the ballpoint on the snipe. That's going to be an oppressive force, just backing up any members of Velocity trying to get back in. There are 2 down on the side of Red Sun, but this push is not over just yet. We're going to keep this going a little bit longer, and I'd like to see Crim jump out, I think.
Yeah, it looked like we were seeing sort of the best of what InControl had to offer for that push. Of course, you have lots of options when you're the ballpoint Splatling and you're able to sort of both use your range on your main weapon and also pretty safely pop your special, even if they can see the landing point, and play some of that pushback game that way. Unfortunately, though, didn't fare so well for the short to mid-range weapons on InControl Red Sun, so that will allow an opening for Velocity here to get control of mid. They're going to have an Inkjet as well coming from their Tri-Slosher Dat Kid. Going to look for anybody popping down from those grates on the right-hand side. Doesn't look like they'll find it, though, and they're going to have to see if they can continue through this checkpoint. It's going to be Kite now with the Zipcaster, not going to be able to pop it either, as they'll get shut down pretty quickly. It's going to be trade after trade, actually, here. Both teams knowing that the hot place to be is these sort of raised platforms, and just as it started, it's going to be getting past the first checkpoint, but not enough to get to the halfway point here, as multiple members now, Velocity, going down to the defense of INC Red Sun.
Honestly, I'm kind of loving how Velocity is playing this mid game, this battle through the middle area without giving up too much ground. But it does look like and feel like they're having a lot of difficulty moving past this. Red Sun is doing a fantastic job coming in from off angles at the same time to be able to add pressure from different sides and make it so that Velocity doesn't really feel comfortable anywhere. A beautiful shark there from the 52, gonna go down to the Dat Kids Inkjet, and this might be their opportunity to get something moving. 2 down on the side of Red Sun, already kind of tickling past that first checkpoint and moving towards the second, but Crib's ballpoint is proving to be a really big issue on this right-hand side, and there's very little on Velocity that can deal with that position.
Well, I love the point that you make about the mid game, and that's so important here to be able to control that, to get back in, to win those fights, to start a push, but that will do you a lot better favor on something like a Scorch Gorge or something like maybe a Mako Mart, where you need that control of mid and you can sort of continue to pressure the objective that way, or do that from mid. With a large map like this one, it's going to be not just about the mid game. You have to also be able to play the end game as well, and Velocity is now getting as close to the end game as they have been this whole time here. They're going to have the Crab Tank on top. They're going to be able to survive at least from the onslaught of the Suction Bomb. They're going to also have the Inkstorm to back them up as they get to that final checkpoint. Clearing through it here is Dat Kid trying to back them into a corner, but it's going to end up in their demise as they are able to not only survive but use the tactical to live that. It's going to be a trade 1-for-1 here as they get past the double digits and into the single digits with 50 seconds to go. Tower currently stalled as Sam is going to try and allow for the jump in here. They have the crab at the ready, but they're not in a good place to pop it. They have to try and get on top of the tower, but they're not able to make it. They survive, but at what cost? A teammate is able to grab it instead. It's going to be a 2-man army here for Velocity, and are they able to make it happen? No, they're actually stopped at 8. 2 members going down, and with 30 seconds left to go, maybe that instance of where they're trying to make a push happen, overextending, maybe this is it for them if they're not able to get back to the tower, Lily.
I think they need a nap after that. Like, I definitely need a nap. Now, they have an uphill battle against them. 10 ticks left on this clock, and Velocity has to get to mid to touch that tower. And Red Sun's defense here is impeccable. They're doing a fantastic job just keeping them out of here, keeping those specials up. 3 down on Velocity, not able to touch that tower. Goes to Red Sun. I am tired. Wow.
And like shooting fish in a barrel here to get those last couple of splats, of course, is they have to be on the tower. You can't have Velocity away from the tower if you want this one to go into overtime. So very easy predicting where they're going to be. And Lily, speaking of predictions, yours is currently still alive, as InControl Red Sun takes a 2-0 lead, in position to potentially sweep here if they can take Game 3, Rainmaker, Undertow, Spillway. But let's talk about that Game 2 for a second here. I actually misread it. Full disclosure, I thought the lead was to 1, not to 7. So I thought my eyes had played a trick on me when I saw Velocity get to 7, and then it went back to 8. And then I looked a second time and I was like, oh, it's 7. That's why they tied. And because they got their second, they weren't able to steal the lead. It went back to 8. So just that close, a real back and forth, sort of that pendulum, like the one on the map itself, and an absolute nail biter, as you mentioned. And if this one continues in Game 3, even if it might be a sweep, it's a very exciting one at that.
Now, I would like to say we did see some signs of life from Velocity. We saw them leaning more towards the kind of stuff I was talking about, especially in their 1.5 pushes they had going on. I think they're definitely still struggling against the aggression and the off angles of Red Sun, which is not surprising. Red Sun is doing a fantastic job. But we definitely saw a little bit more from Velocity that I would love to see more of in this match, and that we need to see more of in this match if this is going to continue. I am still favoring Red Sun for this, full disclosure, but I'm liking what I'm seeing from Velocity.
Lily keeps it real, and so do our team too, who barely took any time to really make weapon compositional changes. And there's only one major one that I see, with that being Miner going over instead of the Slosher to the Sloshing Machine there. So they're going to have the Booyah Bomb on a weapon that was one of the most defining weapons of the early life cycle of this game. Now, still pretty good, but not in the highly regarded light that it was at the beginning of this game.
Yeah, another big thing I'd like to mention is that the C-Jet has swapped out in order for a ballpoint to come in. And it was something I was thinking about mentioning, but didn't want to hope for. But I think that Inkjet is really going to serve them well for defense and offense on this map. It looks like Red Sun just not quite able to break through this mid area yet. And this is the big challenge of this map. You don't want to spend too much time in this mid area because it is a bloodbath. There are too many angles to get attacked from. The faster you can pick up that Rainmaker and pull it type of left or the right side, the better your chances are of getting a push going.
It's like playing on a pogo stick. You have to sort of jump up and between these two different sides that are split in between mid there, and InControl Red Sun is going to be the first team to get through that. They're going to opt for this left-hand side here, a pretty common occurrence there. They're going to get a pick onto Sam as well. So a little bit of that defense gone by. It's going to be, once again, an Inkjet coming through, and they're quite literally backed into a corner there, and they are easy pickings. That's not going to result, however, in the death of the Rainmaker quite yet, or the splatting. They have a little bit of a path here painted on the pedestal, but they're not quite able to keep that path in front of them painted. However, with a counter Inkjet at their disposal, again, ballpoint v ballpoint, we'll see who emerges victorious, as both teams have 1 down per side, now 2 down per side. And as a result of that, the Rainmaker just going to get put right on top of the pedestal, barely makes it through. And this push not maybe over here, as more jump-ins are coming through for INC Red Sun.
Crim's ballpoint lasering down that Inkjet and managing to get another on top of it. 2 down for Velocity means Red Sun is probably going to be able to pick up this Rainmaker again and extend this lead. Now, if they touch this bare area up here, this glass area, this is really kind of the do or die point. Once you start touching that glass area, you get into the points that start to make everyone sweat and make everyone nervous. This right side of the map is so important to defend, and I'm so glad Velocity recognized that and put all of their resources into stopping it. They did a fantastic job on that defense, and I'd love to see how this push goes.
Yeah, hopefully a few of those nerves assuaged here, as they are able to force an entire wipe out there on InControl Red Sun, stopping the sort of parade of jump-ins that started here, and now having to try and stop the parade of shots on this Rainmaker carriage here, this barrier. And unfortunately for them, InControl Red Sun going to pop it, but they're going to go ahead and pick it up anyway. They don't have much map control, and maybe, Lily, this is what you were talking about, just sort of casting out that indecision, maybe saying, let's take the risk of pushing forward here. They're able to get over to at least a little bit in front of where the Rainmaker spawns. I thought they would have actually gone to that left-hand side a little bit earlier, and as a result, they're caught with their proverbial pants down there, and that's going to be the Rainmaker going down just to the side of mid here. So really not much progress, and they're starting to lose the battle with time, if not to InControl Red Sun.
Red Sun here going for a little bit of a mix-up, trying to take this right-hand side first instead. 2 down on Velocity as they were caught a little unawares. This is a very unusual push, but one I love to see. If teams know and stack their resources on that left-hand side, so swinging to this right-hand side, even if you don't get that many points, can cause just enough indecision to be able to make the team you're fighting uneasy about their choices. And the less confident you make them, the better your chances are at making anything happen.
Yeah, you actually saw a little bit of hesitation, I think, there from Sam, who tried to sort of squid surge into the Rainmaker to pick it up at the very last second and dodged it just barely. The Rainmaker going into mid here, and they're going to have the advantage right now, forcing 3 down against InControl Red Sun. That, at the very least, is going to give them that checkpoint. So if they make it to overtime or even get the lead here, they're not going to have to worry about it. They're not trying to play with overtime. They have the room to maneuver in. They're getting on top of this uninkable bridge, and they are going to go ahead and push through to get there. So nice job to at least get to the uninkable bridge there. They lose a couple of members in the process. Can they push through any further? Can they keep this Rainmaker Hall going? In the meantime, InControl Red Sun doing everything they can to keep their side of the map painted, and they actually are able to get a little bit more on top of that. Maybe InControl Red Sun not minding their Rainmaker there, but a little bit extra there will bring Velocity down to 22.
As a rat myself, I am so proud. So proud right now of Velocity. Red Sun really has a battle ahead of them. 25 seconds left on the clock, and they have to bring that Rainmaker. And they let it reset too, which makes me nervous. They have to pull it all the way to a lead, which isn't going to be the easiest, especially against the kinds of specials that Velocity is already building. We see several of them there along the top are ready or almost ready. The Crab Tank coming out a little early, but I mean 7 seconds left on the clock. How early can you be? We're seeing Bronze hover around this U-shaped area, and I didn't even catch fully what happened there, but Velocity ran in and said, no, we're not letting you sweep this. We're going to prove Lily wrong.
The Caster's Curse comes back in full here as Velocity finally able to take at least a little bit of that room past mid here. Lily, you talked about how good they are in the mid game itself and how difficult the mid game actually is on this map. So maybe that's one of those situations where the situation is forcing them out of their comfort zone and making them provide some of those hero plays that were just enough. So could be the start of a reverse sweep here for Velocity. InControl Red Sun, though, still trying to end this one off. However, we mentioned how relatively similar these first 3 maps are. Now, Lily, we go not only to Clam Blitz, but we go to a map that is almost perfectly square with those huge ramps on either side to either drop down from or move the entirety of the way down from. You're not going to have to deal with all of them because of how relatively close to mid the barriers are, but still, it can be quite a haul from spawn if you get taken down at the wrong time.
I honestly think there's a surprising similarity between Undertow Rainmaker and Clam Blitz Brine Water, and I think that it is you want to spend as little time in mid as possible. That big square in the middle of the map with all the clams in it looks very appealing, but is incredibly hard to hold because the spawn of the enemy just overlaps that entire mid area on its own. A lot of people run chargers or rapids or ballpoints here, so that's mid area. None of it is safe ever. You want to spend as much time as possible as far forward as possible, and if Velocity can keep up that velocity that they've been showing last game and show that same initiative, I think that this is gonna go not quite how I thought it was going to go for Red Sun.
Love a good team name pun there. And both these teams, I think, feeling now contented with what they've brought. I know Velocity sticking with what worked for them that time, and InControl Red Sun almost matching them there. The main difference being in the splatter shot as opposed to the end tap, and also just the use of the Splatana instead of the Octoburst there, though they may serve similar purposes. So both teams sort of in the clam finding part of the beginning of this one here. It's also going to be the special building part, as we see again this sloshing machine have the Booyah Bomb that could be, in lieu of something like Splatoon 2's Baller, a nice entryway or entry point right in front of the basket, so your power clam carrier can use that momentum. However, Sam not really using much outside of their own devices and Crab Tank here to get the first break of the basket. However, Dat Kid going to provide some of the offense there. That's a couple of quick picks that's going to allow this one to continue going, and now Velocity scrambling to keep this push going despite losing a couple of members.
And Velocity really is demonstrating what I talked about before the game started. They took control of mid very quickly and fought their way into the enemy basket to try to hold that area and start a push up. And they did a fantastic job of it. They managed to hold and get a lot of picks, push Red Sun almost back to their spawn as they did so. And now we're seeing the reverse. Red Sun doing exactly what Velocity just did, but in reverse. And this is exactly how this map needs to play, because that mid area is way too contested. Now the challenge here is, in the same way that it can be on Scorch Gorge, is maintaining that clam economy, getting the clams you need, locking down the pods that aren't as helpful, and making sure you have that flow steady.
Yeah, much easier said than done. It definitely requires some team callouts and patience to find where they are. And Red Sun able to push forward here. You know, that's something we didn't really talk about either, is that the basket is close, but you can use the area past the basket to sort of lock the defending team down to make sure they can't interfere with those members that are looking for those clams. And they used the Inkjet to really use that effort there to make sure that they had a little bit more leeway and room. However, it was not quite enough. In fact, they were a clam or two short from being able to take over that lead. Similar penalties on both sides, and still plenty of time left in the game. However, it's going to be quite a bit of clams here on the side of Velocity. I believe 18 in total before that power clam got thrown in, and now they're making use of just about all of them. The Inkjet there, not just for offense, can provide some defense there as well, as the ballpoint's able to take down that kid. And not just that, it's going to be a full wipeout. However, maybe worth it in the end for Velocity if they can get there in time. However, an even bigger amount of clams on the side of InControl Red Sun. I believe 23 in total. There's the Booyah Bomb that comes out as well. They lose 3 members there, but what a start. Are they able to make the most of it and perhaps claim this lead here? But no. 3 members going down. What a wonderful job there. Scrambling both teams are, and that pendulum effect, Lily, is back in full force.
It truly is. Velocity got back just into time to prevent that lead switch, but these penalties are so small. We're going to have to be very careful. This is not a map you want to wipe on, and this is not a map that you can afford to wipe on at any point, because it is so quick and easy to get to the enemy basket, and one of these teams is almost always going to have a penalty clam on them. There's going to be no chance that this isn't going to result in an enemy push. A minute and 40 left in this game, 2 down on the side of Velocity. This is probably going to be a push for Red Sun, at the very least the beginnings and the setup for one. And this is probably going to be lead swing. This penalty is just nothing. This penalty is nothing.
They're going to look to get it started here. Once again, it's going to be the Booyah Bomb that gets the party rolling here. However, it's not going to result in actual momentum for the push, but the picks are going to do that themselves here, as we not only have the Ultra Stamp coming out, we have the Inkjet once again moving forward to try and lock down the members of Velocity coming out from spawn. It will provide the pressure, but won't necessarily get the picks. But I love how much of a rhythm InControl Red Sun is in to when they get out of that Inkjet, they have the tactical order to come in through, and with that precision, that momentum, it is going to result in a win here and a knockout for InControl Red Sun, who comes through after a close Game 3. Despite not having the sweep, they will end up getting the victory in this set, 3-1.
Red Sun definitely pulled through there, and I am so excited to see how the rest of Grands goes, the rest of winners side bracket, and I mean even the finals and losers is going to be very exciting. That went about how I expected. I'm so glad to see Velocity pick things up a bit, and I cannot wait to see how they do in the future. Red Sun is not an easy team to face. They are very aggressive and very coordinated, so seeing them come in and be able to correct themselves mid-game to counter that momentum that Red Sun had built, I'm very proud. I'm incredibly proud.
A proud caster here, as their prediction may not have come true, but the overall team winner did. And let's take a look at our bracket here really quick to see how it's shaken out. We talked about winners here. Their opponents in winners finals will indeed be the #1 overall seed Spin. So once again, that darned accurate seeding from Proving Grounds here coming true, and will result in a 1v2 matchup as both teams win their round 3 sets 3-1 to make it there. I believe that one will also still be a best of 5. Down at the loser side of the bracket, we've progressed past round 2 and halfway through round 3 here. Once again, best of 3s down at least until losers finals. Take Your Meds, the 7 seed, actually pulling off one of those rare upsets over the 6 seed. Rydia's annoying 2-0. And on the opposite side of things, YIPPIEE was able to win their round 2 match against Pony Strikers 2-1 and is now down 1-0 to the Backyardigans, who cleaned up Essence. That one being another upset, Backyardigans being the 10 seed versus the number 5 seeded Essence. So a 1-0 lead for Backyardigans. They would play Velocity in their next match, whereas Take Your Meds in losers round 4 is going to take on TKAK. So lots and lots of great teams left in this tournament, and Lily, even some upset potential.
Absolutely, especially from a team like Take Your Meds. I feel like Take Your Meds is a momentum-based team. The longer they play, the more of a handle they get on things. So seeing them make a losers run is really exciting to me. I hope that they can pull through against TKAK so I can continue to see them play as well. I feel like I haven't seen them in a hot minute. So we've already seen TKAK on stream today, and they're fun. We can get some fresh names in here, and I don't know. I think things are proving to be exciting, considering I mean, it is a smaller turnout than we typically expect. So am excited and glad that there's no shortage of excitement as we had hoped for.
Well, Lily, speaking of spectacular names and lots more action to come, we are going to be turning it over, of course, to our next set of casters. It's going to be Nine Whole Grains and Siren to take you the rest of the way through. Any final thoughts on how this Proving Grounds 19 has gone?
Um, no, I think it's been lovely. I'm glad I got to cast with you again. I don't think I've done so since like
Yeah.
Genesis.
It's
It's been a
been
hot
quite a
minute.
long time and
Yeah.
quite a long time for me casting in general. So thank you to everyone and yourself included for your patience with me coming back and getting into the swing of things. And thank you as well to our spectator here, Rice, doing a fantastic job. But that is going to do it for us too. Stay tuned, however, you're not going anywhere. You're going to stick around for the winners finals between Spin and InControl Red Sun, our #1 and #2 seeds. But for now, this has been Shiny Hunter Zach and Lily for Proving Grounds 19. Stick around here at IPL Splatoon. More action coming your way.
Well, good evening, folks. Welcome to Proving Grounds 19. We have arrived at Winners Finals. The top two seeds, as Zach and Lily so clearly noted, as the seeding staff has once again done their job to absolute perfection. My name is Nine Whole Grains, joined once again by Siren, who, we avoided each other commentary-wise for our entire lives, and now in, what is it, like 2 out of the last 3 of these Proving Grounds,
Yes.
you and I have been together. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, the last time I did a Proving Grounds period was with you, so I don't know how this has happened, but I welcome it full-heartedly.
Taking a look here again, Spin and InControl Red Sun going to be your top 2 seeds going at it. We've been informed that these teams are already in the lobby, so you love it when 2 teams that have had quite confident runs throughout, dropping some games here and there. Really a very similar run through this tournament. Their round 3s, 3-1s over their opponents, the lower seeded opponents, to now crack it here into winners finals round 4. Now, of course, should be noted here, this will not be the champion of the tournament decided in this set. There is still the losers bracket, and you can, of course, click on that bracket inside the chat if you want to follow along at home. I know they've been spamming it all over the place, and poor Toasty and Popgun fighting with the idiots in chat. But Siren, been an InControl Red Sun, a lot of names that people are familiar with if they watch the Proving Ground brand. 2 teams with players that have been cutting their teeth in this exact format.
Yeah, definitely. I was kind of looking at the roster of Spin a second ago. It looked like a good mishmash of people we see here normally in these Proving Grounds tournaments. Maybe not together necessarily, but I could totally see that happening. I think one team that kind of faded out without a lot of us knowing, because I don't think they really announced it, was Espresso. And I'm seeing a lot of those players from that roster kind of branching off into other things and taking other opportunities. So I believe I saw Pincher on this one, but I'm not sure if they are actually playing tonight.
Yeah,
With
Gus,
that being said,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Actually, no. You. Something about Gus.
Yeah, I was just going to say Gus, another player who has certainly gained a lot of notoriety late, and Yaru, another player who has marched all the way to the top. Yaru will not be on there, but Pincher will be, and Gust. And of course, on the other side, we're going to see Miner bring out the slosh machine. Has been swapping between a few different buckets here to get it started. And on the other side, another bucket. Of course, it's going to be that Tri Nouveau. You knew Gus was going to be bringing that one to the party at least once.
Yeah, with vertical maps like this where they have these vantage points like those bunkers, we're definitely going to be seeing a lot of buckets coming out here. So kind of a given to see it on each team. But right off the bat here, we're dealing with that tower. We're moving on to these fights on that left side. The VAC and the specials are already out super early. Pincher going to be taking this opportunity with these specials out to kind of take some vulnerability from the side of InControl and gets a couple picks off of that, which surely will lead into a push here with Bingo hopping onto that tower here.
Yeah, well positioned already to, kind of push this forward here. The top left side is the part that you really have to try to hold down as you go and try to make these plays happen there. But if you focus too far on that, oftentimes it means that somebody will run down street or move up to bunker. But they had pushed far ahead enough that that really wasn't going to be an issue here. We're going to recall right back up to a dangerous spot. Getting through that first checkpoint tends to happen pretty quickly here. So if they can bait some of the members of InControl Red Sun back into the middle of the map, as it appears that they have, they're actually going to get to go for a second push right now with that first portion of it checked off. And they're going to have this ink vac as well. Where they opt to use it is up to them. They've done a really good job of playing this patiently, and I feel like a lot of people think that tower control is a matter of go, 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 but it's a lot of push and pull.
Absolutely, and we're seeing the benefits come out of winning the early game push because there's a lot of spots in the map where teams may not have established a lot of control for themselves, so retake can be a little bit harder, a little bit slower, and those are the opportunities that you're going to really want to be taking advantage of as the offensive team if you do get that initial win. So we did see that result in a bit of a 53 push. I think it could have been a little bit better here, but InControl Red Sun doing a really good job defensively recovering from this as well. And we're starting to see them take some space up here. We have that Inkjet at the ready as well. But Krim, of course, waiting for a perfect opportunity to use that and catches Bingo off guard. That is going to be a 2v2 with InControl and Red Sun. But once again, that ballpoint putting in so much work, and that will allow them to at least clear that first checkpoint, I believe, not quite challenging that 53 lead held by Spin at the moment.
Yeah, I am stunned that the ink vac shot hit that high into the air to clear out. I was about to talk all this about how Krim has had some of the most incredible shots tonight on that ballpoint, on that inkjet, and it was just all taken away because of a weapon that's been buffed like 6 times. That's how it goes. But as we move in here to the last 2 minutes of the game here, it appears that we've kind of entered, I guess, more of the stalemate side. Dropping this right now, done a pretty good job of at least zoning people out, but they haven't taken anybody out yet here from Spin. Gus is going to rush forward, and try to make a play happen here, but again, not able to get past that second checkpoint. There's a human element of this game. When you see that that checkpoint is so very close, you try to go forward and make a play happen, and instead you maybe just give up a little bit too much momentum on the side. And right now, that seems to be how this has gone here. I think both of these teams maybe moving a little bit too far forward, attacking a little bit too far forward there to try to create an opening, and the other team just not really giving them that chance.
Yes, and I think that's one of the biggest concepts that you see in modes like Rainmaker and Tower Control is almost letting the objective breathe at times, because you're sacrificing short-term gain for long-term gain when you're focusing on different things for that moment, and that can be a very risky decision to make at any given moment, because you just don't know what is going to pay off all the time, just like that inkjet. So we do get that trade out of there, but that is not quite what you're going to be wanting to look for when you're 2 down like this. Giving Red Sun a little bit of leeway here in this last minute is probably not what they're going to be doing. They kind of do have to rely on this 53 push here, but that's going to become harder and harder as Red Sun just holds onto this control super well, spotting out all these angles, noticing that the top left really needs some focus at the moment, so we're seeing Beam take that with their teammate, and just inching towards that checkpoint is what they're going to be doing here, and taking their time despite the fact that there's really not that much of it left.
Yeah, no, Spin has done a remarkable job of kind of masking where the defense is coming from. Again, we can all see where they're moving around on the spectator mode, but the members of InControl Red Sun have no idea. So you see that they pivoted over to the left there, as you noted, Siren. Meanwhile, the members of Spin had kind of rotated back over to the right side and even sent somebody up to bunker. So some very clever defense there. A little bit of misdirection, moving things around here. And yeah, they've certainly got the specials here. Nico, sensing the moment is there, moves forward and attack. This is going to be a really awkwardly placed Inkjet as well. Is probably going to just opt to try to fire at the tower in a desperation play. And Nico is going to fire forward there, knowing that the game was over at that point. They could not clear it out. So a fantastic job there by Spin. A lot of teams would have cracked there under that defense. They played it well even when they were down resources. I think it's easy to see why this is the #1 seed.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised by this. Maybe I'm a little bit behind. Maybe I'm a bit of a geezer in Splatoon. I quite wasn't expecting this sort of performance out of this roster, but I love to be surprised, and that's one of my favorite elements of Splatoon in general. So this should be a very interesting set after a very close first game. I mean, Manta Tower can be one of those map modes that you just lose in very, like, just a moment. Like, you'll blink and then it's like, oh wait, oh, they're in our court. And boy, do I have some situations relating to that.
Listen, if you haven't lost a heartbreaking game of tower control Manta Maria, you simply haven't been playing this game long enough. All right, it's like your daily bread. It's you take the hits on this map and you just hope that it's not game 5 of a huge tournament, or game 7 of a huge tournament, or game 3 of a huge tournament, depending on what it is. But alas, Spin, somebody did have to win, and they were able to hold off on it there. But moving on to Rainmaker's Scorch Gorge here, as I imagine our teams aren't going to take too long, and sure enough, they have loaded it in right now. Why have we been seeing so much Scorch Gorge lately, Siren? I'm curious as to your thoughts on why this map has suddenly become vogue once again.
I think it was never really that unpopular. I think we forgot about it for modes like Tower Control and Zones, but it's always been pretty good for Rainmaker, at least comparatively to what we're dealing with in Splatoon 3 right now for competitive, viable maps. I think it's almost going to become this game's Mako Mart, where we can just rely on it for a couple modes, and no one's really going to disagree with this choice. With that being said, though, InControl Red Sun is kind of taking a bit of a slow approach to this early game here. I'm not really seeing anything, if I'm being honest with you, Nine.
Yeah, no, it's well said. Early on in these Rainmaker games, it can be difficult to see how the game is forming in front of you, but moving forward here, great job here. For those of you who haven't read Sun Tzu's The Art of War, it usually starts off with when you kill 3 of your enemies, you can push the Rainmaker right up to the pedestal, and they've done exactly that here at the start. Breaking through the first checkpoint in the first minute of the game is pretty difficult to do, I would say, on this game, unless you really manage to find a way to take 3 down. If it wasn't for Gus taking a dive towards the Rainmaker, there probably would have been even more points gone off, and they've actually done a pretty good job of stabilizing here, Siren. I'll be honest there. I thought InControl Red Sun was going to be blitzing that one all the way down into the 30s, maybe even up the ramp and get into the 20s or teens. But credit Spin, once again, their defense went off balance, holding true.
I would say this map might be just a little bit more popular due to that difficulty spike once you clear that first checkpoint. There's a lot more vantage points to defend from. So getting that out of the way does mean something for you when you're pushing. However, it's still going to be quite the challenge, and getting up into those like 30 numbers like you were talking about before is what really defines a team that knows how to push on this map, like just anything else in Scorch Gorge, I suppose. So Miner gonna be moving up, not quite able to get that booyah off, which is, I guess, typical for that special. We're getting to that 50 part. We're almost touching that pillow. Nico popping this hammer here. I'm not really sure what the plan here was. Maybe cause some chaos, wait for some jump-ins. Not quite paying off in the way that maybe they had hoped, but at least at the very minimum, this has allowed the other members of InControl Red Sun to camp up and get ready for that defense. Pintry here, sitting here with the Inkzuka shot, still has a couple left, but is going to be timed out. As more of these specials come out onto this right side, it's a lot of burning pressure just to get that Rainmaker to the checkpoint, but not quite able to get it that time around.
No, again, barely going through, and Miner diving in. Not a player who typically blaze the machine with that sort of pace. So when you notice that a player is going in like that, you understand that it's because they really determined that it's important. And another one is going to go down here as Tall Barbie gets a couple shots off. And now let's see. Yeah, you're going to get to choose where you want to throw this Rainmaker, but it's not going to stop it. Then it kills too. What is going on right now? Run away, please, so that I have a moment to breathe. No, these jumps are going to be punished here as Tall Barbie tries to get away. Like 3 people went down to the Booyah Bomb, then 2 people went down to the Ink back, and now everybody's fighting in mid. And all the while, exactly 0 points have been scored as a result of all the madness, and now Miner is once again running forward.
I'm going to say something real bold. I think that Inkvac, after the buffs, is now the new splashdown of Splatoon 3 because everybody's like, oh, look at that silly thing. It's not threatening at all. And then it actually finishes completing the special, right? And then everyone's like, wait a second, that's not supposed to happen. We're not supposed to go down to that. It's a very deceiving special because we're all kind of used to how it performed at the beginning of the game, which was lame if I'm being nice.
It didn't perform. Let's be honest about it here. That thing just didn't work half the time.
So we're still in this position here where Spin quite hasn't gotten that checkpoint, and even then they still have to make it past them. And now InControl does still have that vantage point for them there. They can kind of rely on even losing that checkpoint to Spin, because they still have that safety net of, okay, they still have to pop the Rainmaker afterwards, they're going to have to get into our base, and they're going to have to break the 50 mark. 30 seconds left means that Spin is probably going to want to hit that checkpoint before overtime, but Crim making that incredibly difficult as they go 2 down here in their base. We see a lot of desperation coming out here as Gus does drop into mid to get a little bit closer to that Rainmaker as it does reset. Nico going to be popping it. Interestingly enough, I don't understand the purpose of that. You do have your hammer still. All you've kind of done is just make it slightly more vulnerable for them to grab it, I guess. But hey, whatever works for you. I'm sure there was a reason for it.
Yep, they're gonna punt it, stall it in the corner. That was the play there at the end. I think that's one of those classic moves where any move on the board was probably a winning move for them, provided something didn't go catastrophically wrong. And I'll say a much different last half of that game compared to the first game and a half that we had saw. Really, it was only that big opening where 3 members of Spin went down and InControl Red Sun was able to break through the checkpoint and then get a few more points off of that. Once that initial attack got thrust aside, it seemed to be a bit of a back and forth there. Oftentimes we see getting through that first checkpoint not so easy on Scorch Gorge, but these 2 teams have played at very, very similar levels thus far, and we'll move into Clamblitz on Mako Mart right now. So you said, well, Scorch Gorge may become the Mako Mart of Splatoon 3, and now the other Mako Mart of Splatoon 3 has come to play.
Yes, I mean, Mako Mart is still going to be Mako Mart no matter what you do to it. Well, actually, that's not true. If you change Mako Mart, it's no longer Mako Mart, and I will suddenly become a hater because it's almost perfect as it is now. We could pretend that Rainmaker on this doesn't exist, and I would be totally fine with that, and I think that's what everyone else has been doing. So, looking at it as a 3-mode map, it's perfect. Let's just pretend the other one doesn't exist. I don't know where I was going with this. We are in a 1-1 score situation here with Spin and Red Sun. So with this not really being counter picks, both teams are just rushing to get the points first and worry about anything else afterwards. So we're going to be seeing them old reliable picks from both teams. Not a whole lot of changes coming out here. We do see that bucket from Gus, as it has been for the rest of the set, and Miner, of course. I'm pretty sure bucket is still on their Twitter handle, so there's really no shocker here.
No, not at all. Miner has been switching back and forth between some of the other buckets. That's been kind of one of the big discussion points amongst the bucket discourse, if you will, is, well, which one do we play now? They're all good, but now it's not just Machine running out in front of all the others now. So different roles, but you're able to make it happen. And, you know, I'm, again, stunned here at Spin's ability to take a step back on some of these attacks. It seems like they've kind of gotten the sense of how Red Sun is moving forward to try to attack them, trying to position, trying to push people out of some of these power areas that you would normally see. And they've seemed like they're a-okay with that. As long as they're able to get 1 or 2 down, they will go ahead and score some points for it here. But it seems like once they have to make attacks of their own, that's where things can start to get a little hairy. Now Nico has rushed right in here, doing exactly what the YIPPIEE is wont to do, and is able to get effectively 2 for 1 for the deal. And now this score is going to come back the other way, and I'd be stunned if this one stopped at 80.
I love that little flick coming out from the hammer there at the end of that. Perfect way to end any sort of push like that happening, and tying up the score essentially with that 81 to 80 here. And Bingo finally moving up and getting to apply some pressure up to this top left corner here. We are going to see them taking a bit of a route onto the right, which can be a little bit dangerous, a little bit funnily for the pushing team, especially if teams like Red Sun are looking out for things like that, which I imagine that they would be. I believe there's some specials going out here. I'll be honest, it's a little hard for me to fully get the view that the chat has on this on this stream, but what I can tell you and what I can see is a new push coming out from Spin, coming out of Pincher, moving out of this basket here. As we do have a few more clams, we're going to apply even more pressure, get the pick on Crim, and that is going to be huge. It's just the YIPPIEE onto the side of InControl. If they're able to keep this basket open with these little tiny clam pushes, they might be able to get something significant out of this.
Yeah, the fact that they've managed to turn this all the way down into the 20s there, again, not a map where you'll see huge pushes without a major wipeout, so to be able to force a wipeout is a big deal. But now they give up a wipeout on the other side, and now Nico, the one that you absolutely don't want holding the power clam in that situation, is now going to have to pivot back here. Can you imagine if somebody else was holding and Nico was able to freely and unseemly move all the way up on that right side to continue the pressure that they've been going through this whole game? Instead, they will patiently wait around, score a couple more here, and now they've got a great argument on the other side here, trying to move through, everybody firing at Nico. Nico probably saying, hey, there's 4 on me, somebody go, and they've done it. They have taken the lead. They will wipe out on the other end, so you have to imagine that the threat is going to be coming back at them in a hurry. But man, I'm not used to seeing back and forths like this on this map, Siren, I gotta be honest.
Yeah, it's very uncommon. Usually we do see these big pushes either from one side or the other. Tall Barbie going to be popping that back and immediately moving up there. They do retake that lead very immediately as we get under this basket here. It's going to be very narrow, but we do notice that a lot of penalty is accrued for the side of InControl Red Sun. So they are going to have to work through that. That's like almost 2 power clams worth of penalty sitting on there for them. So they do have to be very mindful about how they take this last push here. They're going to go for it right away. When you get 3 members down like that, you want to get the ball rolling as soon as possible so you can get these specials out of the way, let your teammates who are in a different position just run up there and knock out, I guess, because what? I didn't even notice that coming.
It's like every Rocky Balboa movie ever. One side just rears up, goes for a huge punch. That's a boxing movie for anyone who hasn't seen any of the Rocky movies. And you just tank it with your face. So then you can go back and throw another full-fledged haymaker punch at the opponent's face, who also won't block it. And it just kind of goes back and forth over and over until someone is no longer standing to make it work. We saw each team get a wipeout, and then repeat it once again. 4 consecutive wipeouts. Mako Mart Clam Blitz. Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. It never changes, no matter what the year is.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and I think teams that have been playing with each other for a long time and have existed since Splatoon 2, since, you know, Red Sun is one of those teams that is one of the few surviving Splatoon 2 teams. I feel like that number is narrowing day by day. You kind of have maybe a bit of an upper hand on maps and modes that haven't changed whatsoever. You kind of have those strategies already in your head and the way that you like to play them, despite the fact that everything else has changed drastically and we have almost no specials that were in common, and everything that was good in Splatoon 2 is barely used in Splatoon 3, aside from, I guess, generic shooters, because shooters will basically never be bad. Splat zones on Hagglefish. I feel like this is all classics, all bangers, honestly.
Yeah, when you have a format like I am all kinds of unintentional portmanteaus tonight, folks. But when you have a format like this that is meant to cater to a very specific subset of players and a particular type of efficient, quick running format, you're going to get lots of these. You're going to get the bangers, and typically the players are more than okay, and that's why they keep showing up for it. But potentially a set deciding game, of course it's going to be on Hagglefish, and unsurprisingly, Splat Zones as well. I am curious to see, taking a look here, this was another one of the maps where Miner had swapped around between the different buckets. Is it's going to be the machine? It will not. Miner is going to be going back with another variant of the bucket, and well, okay, Siren, there's a pencil on the screen. What's going on?
What is going on? I've seen a couple people try to play pencil recently. I'm starting to see the niche a little bit because people want a cooler, they want something long range, they just want a little extra tool to play with there, and I guess it's the kit that kind of carries it. That's maybe the best excuse I have for it. Some pencil scientists, please in chat, let me know what you think. I really just think it's the cooler though. I think cooler in any condition counters teams that don't have cooler and doesn't do a whole lot for teams that do have it as well, which I don't believe. Actually, yeah, both teams have a cooler coming out from that Tri-Slosher, so it's a bit of a rock, paper, scissors. Okay, we both pulled out paper moment, except this time we have a pencil to write on it.
There you go. Oh, magnificent, magnificent. Yeah, I think people just needed permission to do it. Like, so often I feel like there's, for every really like wonky weapon that has maybe a little bit of potential people aren't quite certain on, they're just waiting for one Japanese player or one top player here in the States to, you know, get a victory with it. And then as soon as they do that, they're like, oh, okay, cool, I can do this now. But I digress. We have seen Spin absolutely take control of this game from the start. The pencil will make its presence felt here and get a couple shots off on the other side. I am a little stunned that neither of these teams has opted to bring the end zap, which seems to be, you know, the flavor of the month here. We were talking a little bit about everyone's going to try to bring in their tactical, but usually that falls to the role of one player who's, I guess, kind of sole role is building it up here. We have seen a lot of very quick retakes on zone tonight, not nearly as many of the long holds, and you know, I wonder if part of that is the lack of that dedicated tacticooler that also is attached to a weapon that paints a million miles a minute.
Beam pulling out that Splatoon 1 E-liter movement, just backing up and plopping a couple burst bombs on their opponent to really defend themselves in that situation, which is something you don't see a whole lot of nowadays when you have so much good gun power. It's usually a bit of a ranged attack, but Gus getting in here once again, trying to get towards this zone. That vac is surely to at least help with the cap there, but opting to shoot it a little further than the zone to try and help with this fight here. Will that work out for them? Ultimately, yes, they do apply that penalty. Whether or not they're going to be able to hold this is up for debate, up for conclusion, as we do see that no team members have really been going down here, and we're looking at a neutral, but literally every single special that can be out is out at the moment, and only one member up of InControl Red Sun. I'm having a hard time following what's happening in some people's brain, as far as like what is the game plan here? Is it just...
Yeah, you're totally right here. The way that, again, these players are identifying and finding where the opponent is, you of course always want to give credit where you can here, but generally if these takebacks and people are going down so quickly, usually it's because you're not being particularly crafty with the way that you're defending. You're putting specials either right in the middle of the map, everyone is there, you aren't sneaking around at the right time, and there's just a cog that is not turning. Something's caught in the machine that's keeping it from fully running. We're again going to see they're in control. It's flipped around. More penalty that's flying through is now 2 more are down on each side. We're going to rotate and jump back in. And honestly, it just feels like one of these teams is going to get 2 down, and then they're going to get the tacticooler loop in their favor. And that might end up being enough here, the way that they've been playing.
It doesn't feel as if they sort of decide as a group whether or not they're going to be going for the zone or going for fights at any given moment. From what I've been noticing, at least, it could be totally different from what I'm seeing here. And I feel like both teams are almost playing that way, and that's kind of what's resulted in this like halfway game that we're looking at here. So Tall Barbie is gonna get that pick onto Miner, which is pretty good for them, but that does mean 2 people on Spin are gonna be going down. That will let InControl Red Sun get the zone back. They really don't have a whole lot of penalty here, so they really just need to win one fight, and that should be the game for them as well as the set. But I would be looking forward to seeing a game 5 if we can get one. So Spin is going to try and do their best here to hold on to that zone for just a little bit longer here. They have 20 seconds to go, but that's going to be 3 members down on the side of Spin. Red Sun once again needs to capitalize on this, and they need to do it pretty much yesterday. Geez, Nine, what do they do here?
Yeah, I mean, they do have the tactical loop in their advantage right now, so this was the scenario that we talked about a little earlier here. As long as they don't send anybody down to this Trizooka, they might have had an opportunity. They were going to have to fight through the tactical. Miner is going to be back pretty quickly here, so some more points are going to come off there, but that was huge. Miner was in a great position. Nico is now rotated over to that position. They're going to fight. The shooters are on zone, painting around a wipeout. And oh my goodness, Spin holds on by the skin of their teeth, or the spin of their teeth, I should say.
Was that a flank? It looked like a flank they got onto the zone there and then just almost painted it entirely from behind, got those picks just as a little bonus, but I think they almost would have just been able to cap uncontested from the way that Red Sun was set up there at the end.
Yeah, again, as soon as that Trizooka was able to take down Miner, there was one small period where they were going to have right under that tent, the spot that you always want your bucket, that portion was going to be open for somebody to move in and dive. Nico did the right thing, which is move over to that spot. Nico was spending a lot of the game over there at that point anyway, but whenever you go down, even with Tacticooler, it means that you probably are going to have to jump further back than you would like to be, and you're a little bit out of position. And when the opponent is going to be diving right at you anyway, because, well, let's face it, they only had about 2 more seconds before they lost the lead right there. That small misstep of having to jump in at a spot you didn't want to be was all it took. And credit Tall Barbie there for opting to go forward and continue to fight, not trying to paint the zone. Sometimes I feel like shooters will simply try to paint the zone and contest the opponent instead of moving forward and delivering the knockout blow. But they held true there in the face of adversity, and we're going to a game 5 here in our winners finals. This is what we wanted to see.
Yeah, I mean, I asked for it, and here it is. I don't even know what team I'm rooting for in the back of my head. You know, as a commentator, you don't really side with a team, and there's this like viewership part of me that's like, I want to root for a team, but also at the same time, I think both of these teams are doing a pretty dang good job, and they're both like kind of motivating me to stan. And it's resulted in this very neutral, confused brain moment where I kind of just want to see how this plays out.
Well, one thing we know, Tower Control, Inkblot Art Academy, if it wasn't going to be Hagglefish Splat Zones ending it up, this was going to be the other. These have to be the number 1 and 2 most played map mode combinations here in Splatoon 3. And unsurprisingly here, we're going to see... Well, never mind. It actually is going to be now, whatever the change was or the thought was with the pencil in that last time. I didn't think we'd see that, but we will actually see the NZAP come out here. I believe it was Beam who switched over to that. So either Beam or Nico, I'll be honest there. It was a little hard to read the names, but the NZAP now coming back out here. So they are going to have a little bit more active of a Tacticooler user here. We'll see if that is in their favor right now. Beam going to be running forward and riding the tower with it. So this is why people will play the NZAP here for their Tacticooler user. I know it makes sense to build up Tacticoolers as much as you can, but let's not forget just how active that main and sub weapon is.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I think this pick does come almost from a place of we need to find a solution to allowing every member of our team the ability to fight and do it up close at any angle on this map. It is one where you're going to be cycling around people on specials, people on the tower, people up on the bats. So you really don't want to lean towards those weapons like Pencil that can kind of get their feet stuck in one spot and not move for the entire game. It does change a lot on Inkblot because of the way that this one just plays out. And I think a lot of people have learned to become very fast players on this map. And as a result, we do have to adapt. And we do want players that are more tactile. And that's why we have Tacticooler, which is going to be coming out for Spin here. We do see some players moving up with that as well. Isn't going to quite work out for them, so we do see some people backing out. We do have those super fast super jumps coming back, and they are able to recover a little bit here, but once again, InControl is going to try and get back up into this plat here. Bingo having something to say about that, though, with that Inkjet paired with the Ink Vac.
Yeah, they have had this Ink Vac to stop that push twice now, and that is great. It's awesome that Tall Barbie has been able to pull that out at the right time and fight. It also makes me very worried, though. If 2 times it was a single special that protected your plat, it makes me think that at one point, if that falls through, that's really the only thing that they've had going for it, and they have not yet proven that they can take their opponent's plat right there. They had 2 people move up there. Tall Barbie moved forward, another one backed up there. Maybe they weren't entirely certain of how they were going to do it, but that one small misstep got immediately jumped on by InControl, and now they've already gotten another push. They were 3 down just a few seconds ago, and now they're going to be attacking. Will they have that same special? It doesn't look like it here. They're caught too far back. They will start to push forward here. The fight is all the way back, way past the bats here. The game is almost up in the spawn at this point. Miner is positioned well. They already have the person that they want riding the tower here. They have another Inkjet, and Siren, this is starting to get dangerous.
Very dangerous indeed. Red Sun here absolutely steamrolling through the base of Spin. Spin is going to really have to get their stuff together at this point. I think that 96 is going to have to go for a vac or something that'll be able to put a wedge in what InControl is doing here. Just as members are going down, the same members who just went down a second ago are coming back. Nico's behind them with the hammer. This is at the very least going to slow down the members of Spin. They cannot rest easy, and Gust is going to go down to that. That is going to be almost another pick on a Bingo here. We have them running away almost in fear at this point. When you have Nico behind you, you really cannot rest easy. There's no way you can move forward. There's no way you can push when you have that threat of a wiper or a hammer directly behind your head. That's just not going to work out too well. Tall Barbie does have that Ink Vac in, is going to use it, but I feel like maybe it's a little bit early when we haven't quite burnt through that first checkpoint here. I think this is one of those things where you have to kind of work through it with manpower alone.
Yeah, unfortunate. They felt they had to use it early, like you said there, simply to get over to that side. And as soon as that Ink Vac went off, InControl Red Sun's like, okay, cool. We'll just wait this out here. And now we know you aren't going to have that tool. We will go ahead and give up that first checkpoint if it means getting a solid defense. That is the privilege of playing with a substantial lead. And now they are probably content simply to trade back and forth here. Simply cycle your coolers. You know you're going to outscale in terms of Tacticooler production here because you do have that end zap. Paint around here, fight people who move forward. Mine are not going to try to overextend. Wonderfully done here. They have all the resources in the middle of the map, but now one of them did go down. 2 of them have gone down. Actually, everyone is cycled out except for Miner, who's going to jump all the way back, preserve that Booyah Bomb, a crucial tool here. But they were trading for a while, and Spin found a way to break through and gain a small advantage. They're going to have to fight through a few specials here, but let's see if they can make a little magic.
I would love to see some magic at this point. At the very least, I'd love to see some overtime. That Inkjet is going to be coming out for Red Sun. What is Spin going to be able to do about it? They still have 3v3 up here. They're going to get the... What? That's going to be 3 down on the side of Red Sun. They don't have that Booyah Bomb security anymore. They're going to be up in their plat. Oh, they're going to try and get on the tower, but Gus is going to trade. That's going to be beneficial for Spin. We're down to the 10-point margin. They're going to be able to get this. They have the back onto the tower. That's just going to be a little bit more. Did they get it? I don't think they did.
Oh, Ink Vac! Ink Vac, how dare you!
No way!
The Ink Vac being fired, I think it must have been maybe the ballpoint that it was firing at, and then on the other side, the end zap firing. Listen, it's still a cone, folks, and it's still not a huge cone, especially at the base. Spin has to be so frustrated right now. If that special is turned even a little bit further, or if it's just a little wider, they create the magic. They pull off an incredible come from behind victory against all odds. I'm going to be honest, folks, InControl got away with one there at the end, but they will take it. A fantastic victory, 3-2 over Spin. And InControl will advance to grand finals, and they will now wait for a moment as the bottom half of the bracket goes through. Spin would love to get some revenge, but they're going to have to fight another opponent before they get the opportunity.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the bracket right now. I believe this is already in process, but we have TKAK versus Velocity, where TKAK is actually up a game at the moment. I know that's not quite what we have on screen, but I did pull up the bracket, so it is something that's happening right now. I can't say that I'm fully familiar with the members of TKAK. So I don't know if you're going to be too familiar, but Velocity is a team that has been a little bit more prevalent recently. We did see them earlier this week doing very well at SOS. I think they got second earlier this week in the same tournament.
Yeah, I'm familiar with a few of the players on Velocity, some older names mixed with some of the newer talent here, and also our 3 and 4 seeds. So this is once again a tip of the cap to the folks behind the curtain. There are 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds, the final 4 teams. It's I gotta ask the folks in the crowd who do this. Are you overjoyed when this happens? Do you get excited when the 4 teams that you put top 4 are your final 4 teams? Or are you filled with some measure of unfulfillment here, that you have predicted everything, that it has gone exactly as you had planned? Is there no excitement, no fire, no vivacious changes here in the bracket? I have to know. How does it make you feel? Not that they can actually respond to me, but, you know.
They will at some point, maybe, eventually. If it helps you at all, French Toast, this is not going to be the last that we see of Gus and Bingo. They will be coming back in losers finals, so they do have a second shot at making it to grands as long as they beat whoever wins round 5 here, which again is going to be TKAK versus Velocity. And who knows what's happening there? I would love to know myself. I can only speculate what will be happening. You know, I guess we can delve into this while we kind of wait for a moment, but I do see this discussion in chat. The better the seating, the less complaints you get, and the reply, how come? Care to make any comments on this one, Nine?
You're the TO. I'm clearing
I'm the TO.
out.
That is
I am
true.
Passing you the ball in the low post here. Clear out.
I guess
You're
it depends who you ask, but with the seeding, the team that is the lowest seed is not always going to be that happy when they play the first seed right away, because they do often feel as if they are in a position where they cannot win. So from that angle alone, being solely the bottom seed in like a DE or a single elimination tournament, yeah, that can be a little bit rough because that's often what happens. But with seeding, it also prevents things like the first and second seed playing each other right away, and the second seed, which normally would make it to second place, ends up in losers and you know, in single elimination might be out of the tournament a little bit faster, even though that might not necessarily have been what happened or what should have happened in the end of the day. So when seeding is done right, we get these close matches all the time. Teams feel satisfied that they're playing against people of their similar level, or at least playing winnable matches a lot of the time. And ultimately, it more or less keeps things fair, more so than what randomizing would do to it, because it just ultimately helps to project what should happen in Destiny normally.
I will. Sorry, you saying what should happen in Destiny normally, and it reminded me, or just like my general thought of when seeding is done properly, is I think that good seeding can also, in a lot of cases, cover for the errors of a format where,
Mhm.
if your top 8 seeds are your final 8 teams, like I won't say that it always means that the format was fine, because that's sort of what I'm arguing against here. But if your format of a competitive event has the 8 best teams as the final 8 teams, there's an argument to be made for there to be some sort of competitive validity. And I think that that's also really only achievable if your initial seeding was right too. But speaking of seeding, we have our victor in a very quick best-of-3 set in round 5. We got Spin and TKAK.
Hooray, we get to see Spin again. So those of you in chat who want to see Gus and Pincher and those other members of Spin, you get to watch them give it another go. And I have a little bit of feeling, I'm looking into my crystal ball, I do feel as if Grands is going to be the same 2 teams that we just saw before. And that's typically how it goes when seeding does happen well, which it appears it did go well for this tournament after such a close set between those first and second seeds. So we'll see how this plays out here. But with that being said as well, that does mean Spin is going to have an additional challenge if they make it to 2 grands, as they're coming through losers, and that means they do have to get a bracket reset if we want to see it get it that close, and push the members of Red Sun into losers, which I am sure they're taking a well-deserved break at the moment while they wait for this to all play out, but also might be planning their attack, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of nice here, again, because it's a best-of-3 on the lower side. The worst feeling ever is when you lose in winners finals, and you have to wait like an hour for 2 incredible best-of-5 sets that are going on in losers semis, both of which are streamed, and you just suddenly the pain starts to sit in. For Spin, they had to wait, what? Like, how long did we riff there? 2 minutes, 3 minutes, maybe? I mean, we got you on tournament talk, so, maybe that could have been 30 minutes and it simply passed by in the blink of an eye. But they are going to be heated right now, and they were playing pretty sharp earlier, so I tend to agree with what you're saying here, where Spin is in fine form right now. They're motivated right now. They probably feel like they should have won that last game, so they're still going to have plenty of momentum on their side, and we'll see what TKAK has cooked up here right now with Tower Control Sturgeon Shipyard. It's certainly nothing new, and they've played it quite a few times tonight here, so I'll be interested in seeing how they split up the members of Spin and try to find ways to attack, because we did see in that last set, the members of Spin can get a little separated at times. There are moments where when they go up to attack certain areas of the map, they maybe aren't as coordinated as you would see some of the top 1% of the teams. But that generally also means that when they do find a way to fight their way through, they score big for it because they've already spread out a little bit. So there are some avenues for them to attack and create openings, and we'll see if TKAK is able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I am looking forward to be seeing TKAK. This is a team that I haven't gotten to see pretty much at all. As I said, I think before, I'm not sure if that came through. Is I literally just got home when this when I got on the mic. I hopped on my computer, I swung my mic around, and I got in the call. I barely saw anything that was happening beforehand. So what you have seen from the beginning of my block is what I know to be real and exist. And TKAK will enter my object permanence once Tower Control Sturgeon Shipyard starts.
You heard it first here, folks. Siren, the Splatoon solipsist. So there you go. There's your tongue twister for the evening, a little alliteration for you all, and an excuse for you all to go and look up solipsism and then annoy all your friends with your edgy takes on reality. But you know what else is real, Siren? The set's starting. Let's go.
I honestly have no idea what that means, and now I'm excited to learn a new word. We are gonna be going right into this one, and I'm ready to see more Vanilla 96 action, and we are seeing a bit of a not so what's the name? Regular, I guess, is the not fun word for it. Comp coming out from TKAK. We have that 52 gal and that Nova, which I suppose a lot of teams like to use for the inkjet capabilities. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's see some inkjets. Come on, Kit Kat.
Yeah, I really kind of fell in love with this weapon for maybe the first month it came out, really until it got nerfed. But, you know, I like the idea, you know, anytime that there's a painting weapon that has an inkjet, I find that to be a pretty fun niche, a pretty interesting type of weapon to build around and have some fun with. It is a weapon that is going to be the second or probably even third into the fight. So obviously, if you're taking engagement, that's not a great look. TKAK has pretty well built their comp so that the Nova should never have to be the first person into the fight. Literally every other weapon on their team would rather be the one fighting. So they've at least figured it out here. But again, if you are moving forward to try to make something happen and then play off of it with the Nova, it also means that you might have someone who's off by themselves. It's very difficult to coordinate when you don't have a traditional backline in that fashion. The margins just get so slim. They're going to try to dive the tower here and create an opening, but all it's actually done is take two of them down and then make everybody know where the last one is. It's going to be that Nova that's going to have a very weird angle there on the grates. It's going to go get hunted down as well as we move all the way down into checkpoint 2. Most of that is gone. Now that checkpoint is gone, and here goes the march for these final points.
I mean, this is how this map is always going to go, more or less. One team's going to get up to 22, and from that point, they either lose that push or they just knock out. There's really no in-between of like, oh, we're going to get it back to that first checkpoint, and then we're going to hop back onto the tower. It's really make it or break it from here on in. And looks like they made it.
I mean, you gave them two
game,
options.
I feel like you couldn't either. I was.
You gave them two options, and they chose the one that favored their team. But no, it's
yes.
to kind of make a callback to something I said earlier. There at the end, that's a moment where, when you have the opponent down, you have enough control of the opposing plat that they're going to have to really paint it and give up their position to dive in at you from behind. There's no room for flanks. Almost no move is an incorrect move, provided that you're taking care of business and someone is continually getting points onto the tower. So there was maybe two moments in that game where it felt like TKAK had an opportunity to regain their footing, and whether it just be because they were slightly disconnected, they couldn't quite find ways to keep the Nova up relevant with the other attackers. Spin very clearly looked comfortable. We told you all in the pregame that listen, they were playing really well earlier, and they're not happy, and they're going to go forward and attack, and that's what it looks like on tower control when one team is playing with confidence.
Certainly. This is rain? Question mark? This has to be rain. Yes, okay. I didn't look at the map at first. Yes, it was tower control a second ago. There was no way it was going to be tower again. Oh. What? Somebody actually just genuinely got picked off that early. I thought somebody found a way to fall off the map. Pincher is going to be getting behind, saying, hey, you guys thought you had that Rainmaker, but no, actually, it's mine. So TKAK is going to have to stop that there at that 97 marker. Swirl going to be trying to get a different angle here. Does have the ink strikes at the ready. The Zuka's going to be coming out as well. That is going to be a good start for them. Getting a couple members down on Spin who maybe were a little bit too anxious to stop this push from TKAK that early on. And it seems that they're playing this pretty safe and pretty smart, but that Ink Zuka is always going to get that amazing parabola over that wall there and just catch you when you're off guard.
Yeah, and the fact that they were able to save that checkpoint there is a huge deal. You see there's still plenty of blue ink, and the other members are swimming back over to try to get through there, but had that parabola not connected in such a punishing fashion, even if part of it had hit and not gotten through, I think that checkpoint was going to fall. Now that they've held onto it, there's no push for them to try to fight back out to the middle, but now maybe the option is being taken out of their hand as Kit Kat finally connects with a very, very nice jetpack shot. And now this is where the points start to fly through. How quickly are they going to try to run forward? The answer is very quickly, giving the opponent no time to try to pivot back around. And they still have enough people. Well, okay, one might not be enough, but they still have some presence here. There's going to be a few people that are looking over on that side. It'll slow them down some. And a great opening from TKAK, never really ceding control of the map after that initial pop of the Rainmaker.
Yeah, I guess this is now their opportunity to get back in here. We're not seeing a whole lot of paint on their side as a result of their choice to really push forward in the beginning there. And that they did successfully, but now they need to be prepared to defend that 31 push. And what? I saw 30.
I've seen enough. Nerf it again. Nerf it again. I want that gone. I actually think that all three of those were like perfectly positioned there to fall through there, but I'm going to choose to blame it. Incredible shot there by Todi Toddy there. Whoever holding on to the Pixio monster tag right there. You know, if you're going to wear that tag, the tag of one of the greatest Splatoon teams to ever do it, you got to hit shots like that. And oh my goodness, such a sick way to close it down. Get a little highlight, and don't worry, friend, it was indeed on stream. You will be able to have that one for your own archives. And they even push forward to try to take a few more points off of it. Instead, they are going to have to fall back ever so slightly.
I can't wait to rewatch that in HD later. That's gonna be great. That Inkvac is gonna be coming out for Spin. I always like to see how this turns out for them, because it does once again rely on the members of the other team kind of giving you that pressure to shoot right back in their faces, as the Inkvac special is supposed to work. What? Just another Izuka shot right over that wall there. Hey, you know what? I'll take it. For maps that have all these walls like this, it really works out in their favor to have that Zuka, because it just lets you take these advantages and take ground from lower positions of the map that they normally would have a much bigger challenge of doing. So in that sense, I suppose it's a bit of an equalizer, and it can really force teams to reposition. Spin!
That's a hard bargain right there. They had fought so hard to get this lead and to try to hold on to this lead, and then I think that they simply tried to dive the Rainmaker a little bit too much there. Maybe when they didn't actually need to. Probably could have opted to throw bombs. They've got a couple lethals on their team, so they could have tossed that down and tried to hold on the defensive side. Instead, they dove, maybe gave one or two too many picks to the opponent, and you can't give Spin that many opportunities. They're going to sit right here, continue to fire. They might even opt to let it reset. No, they are going to grab it just to try to push it that much further on the opposing side. No more points to be had from it, but they are playing the field position game at this point. And at this point, you almost have to grab the Rainmaker. If you let it reset, you are really banking on the fact that you can take out more of the opponents and try to take it. But no, wait a minute, behind, they did sneak somebody back there, and that's another reason why you have to grab it. You almost don't even get the chance to make it happen here. You're gonna grab the Rainmaker, but that's gonna be even more time taken. This is the exact position that you would have been before if you'd grabbed it, but with 10 less seconds on the clock. And now we need some more magic to be made. This is gonna be one heck of a push if it goes.
And this is the part where you start taking inventory of your opponents and saying, okay, where are their specials and where are they sitting? Because that is the thing that happens, is that you're the Rainmaker, you're alone. Oh, hey, there's a Tri-Slosher sitting in a little tiny puddle, and they're just going to run at you. And before you can even react or do anything, because your gun takes so long to shoot, you're going to be gone, and that is going to be the game.
Yep, another game, one that they certainly looked much more competitive than the first one, but those almost hurt even more, right? If you absolutely get, you know, your teeth kicked in, you stumble a bit in that first game, you aren't really able to keep it close, at the very least, that one doesn't really sting as much. Something went very wrong early on in the game, you got tower controlled, I get it, but when you are controlling the pace of a Rainmaker game, you get the highlight shot, you get a push to 30 is enough to win quite a few Rainmaker games. I know that that's a map associated with pushes into the 20s and into the teens and under 10 even into those single digits, but you had no business losing that game, and to drop that one really bites. You now have to fight through 3 consecutive victories, and now you're moving on to Clamblish on Scorch Gorge, where you can really lose sight of the opponent, lose contact with them early on if you go down too far. Come on, TKAK. I need to see that resilience. Let's get some more games out of this.
Oh, hey, it's Mako Mart. And then Mako Mart. Clamblitz. Yay! I love Clamblitz. Big fan. I don't know what
Press X to doubt? I'm not sure that I can just leave that one at face value, but there might be more pertinent things to talk about on screen, like a Flash Blaster that has been brought out here by Tall Barbie. And hey, you know, you're up 2-0. If this is your look, go for it. Especially because Swirl on the opposing team has now brought out the vanilla 96 gal. So there's still a 96 gal out on the field, but it's not the player that's been playing it the entire tournament. What more does this set have in store?
I don't know. I think Tall Barbie at this point is just trying to impress me by using the least used weapons in comp, but I do you one better because I forgot this weapon existed until my teammate pulled it out. But the L3D, that's a weapon that exists.
It does exist. It's not currently on the map, but yeah, it's a weapon that exists.
I just wanted to remind people that it does exist because I know we all forgot.
In an alternate universe where these players are playing that weapon, we would get to see that turns out that main weapon plus a burst bomb is actually not a bad combo. All the while, though, as we've been speculating, points have been scored, and something I speculated on early is that if the game started to get away from TKAK, they would be in a rough spot. Instead, they are the ones who are pushing the envelope thus far. If they are able to wait out this inkjet and keep some control under the opponent's basket, there's going to be a pretty good opportunity for them. Instead, it does appear that they're going to try to simply save that power claim, retreat back, and be content with their lead and control of mid, but they're not even able to do that quite quick enough. Whether KitKat knew that Bingo was coming out here with this ballpoint or not, did not back far enough away. Now they're going to be one player down, one power claim down, and they're going to lose some of mid, and probably a whole lot more. That poor Inkvac's going to be stuck in such an awkward spot, was able to get something for it, but they lost what they had going for them, which was that mid control, and if they're not careful, the other thing they have going for them, which the lead is going to be soon to follow.
For sure. We do see some special usage. I'm not really sure what the follow-up is for that, but I suppose it's actually going to be Inkzuka as three of them just go down. I suppose it's just going to be Swirl left, who is kind of left scrambling, and that lead is going to go switch back into the favor of Spin here, and it doesn't look like it's stopping at any time soon. They still have that man advantage. Tall Barbie is taking these fights. No where are you?
I got you. Points were scored in the meantime. Siren has returned. I think the L3D heard that you were talking mad smack earlier and just had to go and kick your router for you there to pull that one away there. But that's what happens when you go ahead and insult the gracious and powerful L3D. Meanwhile, though, on the map, we said before that once mid was lost for TKAK, the thing that they had worked so diligently to protect, that some points were going to follow here. And Spin, now that they've got ahead of steam, have really been punishing them here. I got to give TKAK credit. They've done a pretty good job of fighting up to mid very slowly. But the problem is that when you have players like Gus here on this try who are simply waiting for that exact scenario, your move back into mid really isn't a full move back into mid. You've fallen into the opponent's trap. It's certainly on the tower. You know, you have to assume that that Tri-Slosher is going to be there. And now look at this. Gus now takes two down, goes back, throws some more. They are more than content to play with this lead and simply work on tower. And if you're TKAK, you again have to assume that there's going to be pressure on this tower. Instead, KitKat goes right back to it. Gus grabs a couple more. Now sensing that there's time, moves forward, rotates back. I mean, this is what this weapon is designed to do. Well played. Go ahead and get some more points on. Attack, attack. There is a chance that the game ends right here if they play this claim economy properly.
Yes, and this Inkzuka pairing up super well with that bucket under the basket here. They do have to play this a little bit slow to make up for the fact that these clams on this map can be very spaced out. But we are under that 10-point margin here. There's just a couple more that they have to get in, but it's just going to be Tall Barbie and that shot. Can they do it? And they are able to. They are going to seal the deal and make their way back into Grands. The challenge is not over yet, though.
No, challenge not over at all. And Again, a congratulations to TKAK for taking 3rd place. The bronze medal is not bad. You're on the medal stand, which is more than all the other teams that entered tonight can say. With the exception of our final 2 teams, it will be a rematch of winners finals. Spin versus InControl Red Sun here. They'll be duking it out in another best of 5. If you stepped away for a moment, got some water, maybe, made a little meal there, ran an errand, whatever it was, no, you didn't. You're not seeing the same set here. It's simply the same 2 teams that have come back here as Spin very quickly moves through TKAK. Siren, your prediction, very much correct, but with the way that Spin was playing earlier, we suspected it was going to happen.
Yeah, it was very strong, and judging by the seed, I believe Spin was that first seed, as I think you were saying before. So in some aspects, if seeding is correct, the set we saw before, I suppose could be kind of considered a minor upset from InControl Red Sun, which is a team that has been showing their strength more and more recently, definitely building up their reputation and their I guess social points within Splatoon 3 as time has gone by, and should continue to do so as we work our way. I guess this is the part where I hashtag ad for no reason. As we lead our way towards Riptide, I'm not working for this event, but I'm just reminding you guys that that's happening soon, while we have a moment. Riptide, that's coming up in just a few weeks. If you aren't signed up, you should probably do that now, because as much as I like to say, okay, we've already beaten the numbers for Smash and Splash 5, we are the largest LAN that has ever happened outside of Japan. Let's just rub it in a little bit more and make this really good and take advantage of all that wonderful space we have at that Kalahari in Sandusky, Ohio. And come see some awesome Splatoon 3 gameplay, as well as some collegiate stuff, because I'm not really familiar with that, and I'm kind of excited to learn more about it.
See, Siren, this is why everybody thinks that you do work for these events.
I do work for these events, but not this one.
Okay, well, I think the sentiment of what I'm trying to get across is not lost on you here. You beat the drum for every event, so naturally people assume that you are at every event. But apparently that is not the case, as it turns out.
Yes, I look, I work for it, but like once you see me there, if anyone asks me anything about the event once I've clocked into September the 8th, the 9th, I don't know when it starts, but once that weekend starts, I'm good. Like if you report a score to me, then I will go up and I will report the opposite. So don't do that. It won't work out well for you, so just don't do that. But I swear someone's gonna do that now.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yes, I will say also, come to Riptide, everybody, and if you are at Riptide, come up and say hi to me. I will be there, and I would love to meet lots of people. Last Riptide, I had just come off like 3 consecutive tournaments. I was very tired and I was antisocial. I intend to change that this year, so come up and say hi to me. I'll be the tall, shaggy, brown-haired person, which does not narrow it down whatsoever in this giant of a community where everybody is above 6 foot. But if you are there, please, by all means, come up. I'd love to chat.
Everybody is above 6 foot.
Yeah. You've seen the photos. I know you've seen the photos of just how ludicrously tall the community is.
I think we only think that because Bagel's in the photo. Everyone's like 5 feet tall, and then there's just Bagel there.
I'm 6'3" and I'm the second shortest person in that photo.
Well, like half of them are on their tippy toes.
Cheaters. That's what they were. Cheaters.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's gonna be a fantastic event. I never thought we were gonna beat SNS 5. Just a little like sentimental moment. I really thought that was gonna be the peak of it. I was never certain that we were gonna hit these numbers again, because SNS 5 was just a golden age. It was right before Worlds. Everything was on a high. A global pandemic had not happened yet. Everything was in that event's favor. So the fact that it has been built back up to this level at a tournament series that did not exist pre-pandemic. I mean, I know this is a permutation of Smash and Splash, but it's not exactly the same. And it's just awesome, and major credit has to be given to everyone who has worked tirelessly to make it happen. And yeah, it's we can now stop stalling because these two teams are almost in the lobby, and we do have our map list in front. But yep, come to Riptide, and if you're not there, watch the stream at Riptide. And if you are at Riptide, say hello to me. Those are your 3 directives tonight, folks.
Yeah. By the way, you should be followed to IPL Splatoon because that is where the Riptide stream will be happening, to my knowledge. I believe that is confirmed. But at least one of them, because if you missed it, there's going to be 2. Rainmaker on Sturgeon. I'm happy to see this map again. Maybe not so soon, but I'll take what I can before we have to look at Clamblitz on Brinewater. Actually, I don't know why I'm hating. I like that map.
I was getting like, why? So many things are catching strays tonight, Zyra. You took a Trizuka shot and put it right at Clamblitz earlier. Then you followed that up by blasting L3D. Well, what did L3D ever do to you? Why? It did not deserve to be blasted there.
Be less good than Splash and be less good than YIPPIEE. Like, it does both jobs, but is not as good at either of them. It just doesn't.
99% of the weapons in the game don't do those 2 things. Come on now. Worse than Splash-O-Matic, like every other weapon in the game.
Look. Sploosh-O-Matic at least can get more hammers. Let's give it that. I was genuine though when I said I love Clamblitz. I actually do. I think it's actually the best mode in the game. I know I sound sarcastic. That is literally just my voice. I do mean it. And I will always mean it, and Clamblitz on Brinewater makes me happy, and I'm glad it's a guaranteed map in the set. But right now, we're on Sturgeon Control Tower Shipyard. That's not even the move.
That's not even the Oh, someone's dead. I don't even know who, but you know what? Miner's gonna be doing his thing here, working around, jabbing at the opponents as they try to move forward, spacing them out on that side. I think it's a 2v1 on that side, so I'm pretty surprised Miner's been able to hold it for as long. And I think actually ended up winning that there, or they jumped somebody else back. So now, yeah, the pressure going to be going all the way over here already, and now Beam's going to have the opportunity to make this jump there. Gets it on the first opportunity. We are going to pre-fire, but will it matter? You have to stop shooting eventually, and that will be enough time. Checkpoint broken in the first 50 seconds of the game.
Yippee! We're up on the top. We're on the top. Yo, the spinner came down. The spinner came in clutch for them. I don't know what team this is. Wait, am I watching the right stream?
I wish I could say yes, but I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Are you okay?
No, I couldn't tell what orange was. Good job, InControl Red Sun. You did it. You really got it up to 44. And now you're defending.
Oh, there's pandemonium here in the commentators box right now. Gus firing away with 2 people down. This is kind of the moment of checkmate here as the Rainmaker carrier, where you're just begging that the opponent doesn't have enough forces marshaled to come and rush you down and attack it, and has done a pretty good job here. Enough time for people to move forward and start to attack. Keep an eye on the top left of the screen here. If a couple of those members go down, Gus is probably going to have to flip over to the left side and opts to do so. At the very least, getting back past the spinner, trying to figure it out. But if you're shuffling your Tri-Slosher of all weapons with the Rainmaker carrier over and over here, it generally means that eventually the attacking team will win out, and they've done so. But credit to Spin here, even though they lost the Rainmaker there, the Rainmaker was really all they lost. They've got good control. Pincher hits a great shot there with that Trizuka to keep control of the middle of the map. So they still have a say currently here. One more pick here on the left or right could do it, but they don't really have an answer for the ballpoint perched on that left side. That's what that Trizuka shot was aimed at, and until it's gone, Siren, I think we're going to kind of see a lot of the same that we've seen for the last bit.
Yeah, I mean, more or less, it's going to be one of those games where, the first team got a good push. They are going to stay here until Spin has some sort of tool for momentum that will get them here. Though, even when Red Sun is 2 down, Krim just holds these like perfect positions to keep everybody in check, including the members of Spin. Just hammering out these assists. Miner is going on cleanup work. Like, where are the other 2 members? Like, I'm concerned, but I don't know if it matters, because all I'm seeing is these 2 just get pick after pick, and they're almost playing defense with Rainmaker and Ring Around the Rosie, this little Rainmaker shield. It's not moving anywhere. Like, what is going on here? Well, there's Nico. That is somebody else.
Yeah, they did such a good job of holding the positions, and I've always said that Miner was one of those sloshing machine players who the nerf really wasn't going to hurt all that much because of the way that he played it and attacked. Finally, though, Spin is able to create a united front and push over on the left side. You can see they are pushed ahead of the Rainmaker that Tall Barbie is holding here. Do they have enough specials to get rid of the ranged options? So far, the answer is no, but they still have a couple members up there. They actually managed. No, they didn't. I thought for sure Gus was going to sneak away at that point, but a bomb landing at an awkward spot swam right into it here. And yeah, as soon as you jump down on this side, on this map, there's really no opportunity for you to make any more of a threat happen, any more of a push happen, not able to break through it. I have to imagine that the next time they push, it's probably going to have to be down the middle. They simply don't have an answer for Red Sun's range on that left side, for the buckets on that left side. They're going to have a pretty good look here. They're saying this way. They're looking at going for it again. Will they make it work? No, it doesn't appear. They weren't able to suck up that booyah bomb, and I can't believe those words just came out of my mouth. But with 30 seconds left in the game, I'm going to pass you the baton, Siren, as I go wash it out with soap.
Well, the channel died. So I don't think are we live yet? It's fine. Oh, are we back yet? Oh, hey! Okay, hi, chat.
I'm waiting to see who won, but I have an ad right now. Red Bull isn't letting me... Oh,
Red
okay,
Bull.
never mind. Yeah, never mind.
Stay here for our message from our sponsor, hashtag Red Bull.
Well, we're back. InControl Red
Okay.
Sun, a fantastic hold there at the end of the game, or really the entire back half of that game. You got the sense again, they weren't going to let left side fall to the wayside. When you have a machine and a ballpoint there, you can almost single-handedly hold that left side, especially when the spinner isn't down. And you saw that they always had somebody up there relevant in that spot. They had a booyah bomb ready to head off anybody who was trying to attack. And again, as well as Spin has been playing, you're seeing the quality of the player on InControl Red Sun has held true. And now going to move on here to the mode that you sounded so exuberant about earlier, Clam Blitz on Brine Water. It's a map where it can be very, very tricky to keep your push alive there. You have to give up a lot of relevant space to go back and get the pods, so we'll see if they're able to do it. This is a bit of a comp shift here. Nico going to be bringing out the Nautilus, a weapon that has gotten a lot of love as of late.
I don't know if I like this character you're painting me out to be, Nine. I love Clam Blitz. And as you said, there is a lot of positioning that you do have to give up in order to make things work on this map. And a lot of teams are able to hold on to that for an extended period of time. But it's, again, position, place, objective. I'm looking for another P word to say objective. Pubjective. They gotta watch their P's as they get into this here. But that Inkjet is gonna do that heavy work for them, I would say, as Beam is getting under here. They have a cooler of their very own, and this should be a very free push for Red Sun, and they will probably look to hold on to this for as long as they can. They just do need to watch out for the members of Spin as they start flinging ink at them in the form of Inkjet and Inkzuka at the same time. That basket will finally close up for them. A bit of damage has been done so far, but we'll see if Spin is able to get some momentum here and perhaps overtake mid, maybe use that vacuum a little bit for them. Very quick charge from what I could tell, and getting that pick on Miner is actually going to be huge because, as you could see from the last game, he was playing cleanup crew like the entire time.
Yeah, did a great job there, and Again, just want to point out, like in that push, the only reason why they lost it was because, again, they had to go back to the middle. Once one person went into the middle and one person went down, there's only 2 people left to defend the spot under the basket where you're trying to score. So the mode in the map can play defense for you, provided that you don't try to dive on the opponent too quickly. So Spin has been at least somewhat patient. They picked out Miner, but Miner is able to get one for the trouble there, and then they're going to get the revenge as well. So that's the worst of all possible scenarios there. You send 2 people down there after one. Both of yours end up going down for the price of their one. And now you've lost all semblance of control that you had in mid, and the opponent is going to have special advantage on you as well. They will be able to punish Crim there on the landing. So Finn has been having this nice extended firefight in the middle, and they've been winning a lot of these fights, but can they prove a sustained attack on this side? They're going to have to rotate all the way back. We'll see if they're able to close this out and get some points on the board. For the time being, it doesn't seem like they're quite confident, but this Inkvac might be the opening they need.
Yeah, it feels like very consistently so far that Red Sun has almost had this contingency plan that has allowed them to stay afloat up until this point in the game now, where Spin has finally overtaken every backup plan that Red Sun had going for them here. It is going to be a lead for them, albeit a bit of a minor one, no pun intended. There is a player named Miner there. Gus is staying behind them, playing a bit of a nuisance, gonna jump out, which is, I suppose, a very smart idea when you're dealing with Red Sun and they have multiple, clams at the ready and a cooler going off. Probably a good idea to get into the defense position there, as we do see people. What? Nico jumping somebody somewhere? Vacuum? Yes. Let's just throw our strikes right at the vacuum. Let's do that. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the way that the VAC has been performing this set here, I kind of get why you would try to do it. Just like, I just want it gone, even if it might take away a couple of my shots. But you see, again, both of these teams being very, very jump out happy there. I think this is what now, counting that jump, 3 or 4 jumps that we've seen on our cam here of players simply deciding, no, I don't actually want to go for this. I'm a little surprised here on a map like Brinewater that they're willing to carry 2 power clams here. I know that it's nice when you can dunk 2 of them and immediately start your scoring, but so often on Brinewater, that's simply not how it's done. You need everybody as relevant and active as possible, and it's so difficult to build any sort of sustained momentum when you simply have 2 people carrying power claims. Look at this. I mean, InControl Red Sun was in control of the map here, but because they were swapping those power claims back and forth, they gave up all of this space to Spin, who now is kind of running into the same issue on the other side. They've got a couple of their aggressors being the power claim carriers, and now they're not going to get anything for the trouble as we approach the last 30 seconds of the game.
Look, we're getting under this basket here. Red Sun is going to get that dunk at the very least. But yeah, I mean, that's really where everything ends. Is starts and ends at the dunk. And that actually could result in a bit of a pushback from Spin here, who may be looking to extend their lead. That back is going to be coming out. The jump is coming in. Nico, blinded by another special right in front of their face, isn't going to be able to see where that Inkvac shot is coming out and has no time to react to it. That is going to be a near wipe just in time for Spin to get up in their base, and they really just did not have the positioning or the pressure to make a power clam in those last few seconds that would have bought them that overtime. So we are back into the situation where Red Sun is not completely dominating the tournament. We have a 1-1 score. I'm pausing as if I say 1v1, but it's that's the teams, not the score. What am I saying? I mean, look, the baseline of commentary is not me sounding cool and sounding like Zach, because Zach is cool, but like, Zach is also entertaining. I'm just never going to be entertaining in the same way that Zach is, because I can just never be Zach. I don't know why I'm talking about Zach.
Poor guy is sneezing all over the place right now. Like, man, why are people talking about me? No, my love of Trying Andrew Zach is well documented as well. But don't worry, Siren, I always find myself with a giant smile when we work together here. And I think the audience does too, which is why they, against all sensible decision making, opted to bring you and I back together here for another round here of Proving Grounds. I think last time the sheer pandemonium that we created was enough to convince them this is worth another go. And You know, we may have finally played ourselves out of the Hall of Fame with this week's performance here, but we can do it. I believe it. Hang with me. Let's finish this one strong.
Yeah, yeah. A few more games. We have. Oh. Okay, I'm actually gonna be a hater for real here. Okay, Splat Zones on Museum. Wait. Can you be positive about this? Is that something that you can do? Because I don't want to bring this down.
I mean, how hard of a whiplash do we want to give the audience at this point? Like, you want me to be uber positive? You want me to? I'm the puppet
Just
here.
be
You
genuine.
tell me what you want to do, and I'll do it. Genuine?
Yes, genuine. Tell me how you feel. Maybe you're a hater too.
I find Museum d'Alfonsino Splat Zones to be one of the more intriguing Splat Zones maps because I think that the avenue to go and attack the opponent's side of the map is one of the more pronounced maps, especially in Splat Zones, which I think is certainly one of the least dynamic modes. This map gives it a little bit more dynamism simply because of how you can attack the opponent from the spinner area as they move through, and you see a wider variety of backliners as well for the same reason. Go for it.
Look, when you drop into mid, the only way out of mid is the zone. And that, it makes me very angry, viscerally angry, is that the only way to move back is move ahead. And I just don't like it. I don't like it very much at all. And I don't like the physics on the spinner because it ruins specials, it ruins splash walls, it ruins a bunch of things, and it makes people very sad. And I think the spinner actually came up with like a bubble. There's some bubble gate controversy in that other tournament with that one set with Last Resort, I believe. That was a whole thing. Very unfortunate. And yeah, you know, I can just focus on the moment here and look at Miner sharking in the enemy base and hope that Spin isn't listening to me 30 seconds in the future and going, hey, wait, Miner's pushing into our base, as if that's not something that is very in character and should be what they are doing at this point. But Tall Barbie taking advantage of the spot that they're in, but again, they're playing against the buckets, so they can just kind of shoot over a wall and deal with that.
I mean, round of applause here, Siren. You went from hating on the stage to then warning the opponent about where Miner was, and then recognizing that it's 30 seconds in the future so that you're not actually calling it out here. On the other side, InControl Red Sun has now pushed up here the portion of the map that I enjoy, that I kind of talked a little bit about, where you can use, as you noted, Siren, there's one direction for you to go once you drop into the middle, and hey, if it's in the opponent's base, I am A-okay with that, especially when you are tacticalered up as well. Now, Miner moving forward here, you know that you have to deal with that. Look at that, a bomb to protect where Miner's moving forward through. We're going to put our lethals all up and over here. You got to fight through the bombs and then fight through the players. Just a few more seconds. Yeah, Miner going to throw those right at zone as we get down into the single digits. Do they have enough players up to paint it and stall it? They do. And InControl Red Sun is going to take, in pretty dominant fashion, Museum d'Alfonsino Splat Zones. Controversial here in the booth. What cannot be disputed is that it was a great performance there by InControl Red Sun, who is now only one game away from being your Proving Grounds 19 champions.
Yeah, and they do have 2 chances to do it, which means that I can take this impending coughing fit that I feel coming up in my throat and potentially unleash that at some point, if they win this a little bit faster. Don't know why I said that. You know, a little tickle in your throat, and you just, like, you know, you have to cough like 30 times, and it's just like, it's gonna happen at some point, but you have to schedule it almost. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
When you feel it midway through a thought, and it's a lot better when you're in person, because you can just like point at someone and just like point to your throat and they'll take it away at that point, and then you can move away and cough. But we don't have such a luxury here, so you just have to very quickly cut off your point, say the other person's name, and then run to the other side of the room to hack up your lung.
Yeah. Or if you're at work, if you work in retail, you just go, oh, BRB, and then you run to the back room and you just like wheeze so loud that everyone in the store can hear you anyway. And then you just come back and you're like, I'm okay.
The beauty of retail. The beauty of retail.
Okay, yeah. I don't know why I said okay. That sounded so passive. We're just gonna Hagglefish. Tower control on Hagglefish. Yay!
Siren, are you all right?
No.
All right, go ahead and take 5. Go ahead.
Oh, well, we don't even have 8 players in the lobby.
They heard
Pass
me.
on that one.
They heard me. I said take 5, and the players were like, "Oh shoot, hit the showers. We're done. We gotta go do something else." All right, let's get the reset here. Oh, incredible, incredible. Take 5, folks. Siren, you've got to hang on just a little longer. Just a little longer.
I love Hagglefish. What does Marsh want?
Marsh is kind of like that. So if you have a car, right, and you open the door and it has that like annoying dinging thing,
Oh,
like
yeah.
that will stop eventually. You just have to ignore it long enough, and that's kind of how I
Okay.
view Marsh. Marsh is essentially that door beeper, that car alarm. Eventually, if you just ignore it, it goes away, and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
I think I read it a little differently than you. I think I feel that the proper metaphor here is more so when like a little toddler that you don't know very well comes up and is like, "Do you have any games on your phone?" Like that's Marsh more so, and they won't stop until you like let them play Minions Run on your. You gotta like download it. Yeah.
Man, all the only games that I have on my phone are gacha games, so the idea of giving a child my phone and then suddenly I find that I have like $10,000 on my credit card because they simply bought all the premium currency, be terrifying.
They got all the characters in Cookie Run, Genshin Impact.
Oh no, I would never infect a child with Genshin Impact. I would never. I have standards.
A lifelong
try this
gambling
one again?
addiction. Yeah!
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Field is all yours, Siren. What are we seeing?
Well,
what can we expect?
Spin lost Tall Barbie. Or maybe that was Tall Barbie. Maybe Tall Barbie was the friends we made along the way. But we do have a 52 gal as Apple instead. So maybe this will change things a little bit. Maybe this will change the tides for them as they move up here. We do see a lot of special usage coming out very early on in the game. As I said before, at the very beginning of when we first started casting together on Manta Maria Tower Control, I said winning that first fight in tower can be pretty integral because the enemy team often doesn't have a lot of their base painted up, and that lets you have a whole lot of leeway when you move in. Though I feel like I just saw a coin flip because I thought things were going really well in favor of Spin, but suddenly we're watching InControl move up here. So I guess both teams kind of got out of this with almost equal ground.
Yeah, and thank goodness for Pincher's Crab Tank here. That's the only reason that they have a chance to defend their own plat right now. I will say switching over to Apple with the 52 gal means that they are going to be able to be a little bit more fight happy than they were earlier rather than having the 96 gal. But the other side of that is if you're going forward and attacking there, your 96 gal was kind of your paint bot that was keeping some sort of measured pace and progress on the map here. If you switch that over to a fighter, it means that Pincher, you're on this non-existent Crab Tank, good God, is going to be one of the weapons that's going to have to paint up for you as you try to move up, so that might mean Pincher can't fight as much. Now, of course, Pincher with a great fight right there, all of those shots connecting very nicely, means that there is going to be less of a threat on the map this time, but that is the trade-off that you are willing to make when you change comps to such a thing.
No, not the sponge like this. The Wiper absolutely just spotting out Pincher, who was kind of minding their own business here, and that will change things for Red Sun as they are able to burn through that checkpoint, which I can find to be a bit of a nuisance when you're the pushing team there. So that's going to work out well for them. Pincher trying to clean this up as best they can with that Crab Tank, getting some paint on the board, but I don't know what this is really going to do for them in the end because they've kind of built up a lot of that paint. that they could have been using to get some other specials, and now they're coming into this, they're popping an inkjet, but they're already one man down. Maybe this could turn around if they can get these extra picks, but it is still just a 2v2. We're playing with a neutral here, look, Spin is gonna need some more tools in their toolbox if they're gonna want to start comparing their push to what InControl Red Sun has set up here for the rest of this game.
Yep, and with Nico's missiles here, every push that InControl gets, provided they're coming at you with a full arsenal, is going to displace you and allow them to get exactly where they want. Now they've cycled their other specials properly there to neutralize that crab. If they are able to find a way to get rid of Gus there around the tower, this could be huge. Instead, the ballpoint is going to close things out, and that's very fortunate because Gus actually gave up that position. Now Apple's going to move up into that position as well, so they cycled it properly. A great defense from that position. I will say, though, because of the tactical advantage here, InControl actually didn't give up much in terms of materials portions on the map. They're going to go ahead and lock up here for another push. They've already cycled all 4 of their specials once again, Siren. That's 2 cycles in 1 push.
2 cycles in 1 push. Never mind. Anyway, they're going to be...
What year is it? Good God.
2023. Don't tell the kids. They have their cooler. They're ready to extend this push a little bit more. That Booyah is coming out. I'm just calling out the specials as I see them because that's like we're panning to people. They're popping a special. Then we pan back to somebody else. Another special is getting popped, and that's just really the core of top level Splatoon, isn't it? We're just popping specials out here, and splash walls, I guess. We're doing what we can to try and stop this tower. Is that going to work out with 1 minute left and we're down to that last checkpoint? Not so sure about that. I lied. There is another checkpoint, but it's so lavishly close to the end of the path that it might as well not even exist. It's there for obligation purposes only. Miner is once again getting up into the faces of Spin, understanding there's 30 seconds left, so they can play a little bit recklessly. They can get up in their faces. They can play really risky like this, and any payoff is going to be good payoff for them because it ultimately just slows down the members of Spin. They really just are allowed to push up here as long as they all don't go down at once, which is, I mean, they are successfully not doing that. This game should be theirs.
It should indeed. 10 seconds left here. Provided they continue to move up and fight, they should be A-okay. Nico going to move over right here and is going to go down. They're going to go, and Pincher does get on the tower here. Of course, a lot to be done. Knows there's a player under there. Can't quite close it out, but they're going to get a crab on tower facing the wrong way, and Krim going to take it out. They're going to, again, extend this one here out of sheer desperation, and I mean, hey, crazier things have happened. Miner is up in the exact spot you want your machine. It's going to take 2 people out immediately. They're going to go forward. Krim's going to say this way, call for the photo op, and InControl Red Sun is going to go ahead and get it done. 3-1 over Spin. They beat them on the winner's side. They don't drop a set. And they did even better than they did on winner's side. A 3-2 set followed up by a 3-1 set and a couple commanding games in there. Beam and Nico going to give themselves a fist bump right there, and they've deserved it. They are your Proving Grounds 19 champions.
Let's go, Red Sun. Red Sun W, InControl W, hashtag InControl Gaming. I don't know what the tag is. Yeah, I mean, Red Sun just proving that they were doing their homework that entire time, not losing any momentum, in fact, gaining some for this set as well. But I am so ready to get this coughing fit. I'm so ready to just talk about myself more than any Splatoon commentator ever has. I'm gonna beat the record and wait, no, sorry. Anyway, we'll sign off. But there is going to be a video directly after that. They will not let me forget that. So, Nine, anything from you to say to this lovely chat?
Well, thank you for spending your Friday evening here with us. I've always joked that there's nothing better to be doing on a Friday night than playing Splatoon with your best buddies, listening to commentators absolutely lose their sanity in real time, and try to improve and enjoy their time in this fun little community that we have. A big thank you again to all the TOs for the work that you put in, to the production staff who puts this on as well. These streams don't just magically appear, people. People actually have to work to make these things happen. And big thanks to everybody who's there. Thank you to you all for watching as well, except for Marsh. No thanks to you, buddy. I'm not going to play Risk of Rain 2 with you because I'm going to play Pokemon Sleep instead. A game that you probably aren't very good at. Degenerate.
For hardcore gamers only, actually, so yeah.
But to everybody, thank you for joining us. Siren, where can people find you? What are you all about?
As per the usual, my tag was on screen a second ago, but that's where you're gonna find me, where I want to be found. Don't look for me anywhere else. Twitter and Twitch, that is the place. Sorry if you hear my dogs. Yes, I had a great pleasure commentating tonight, and I'm so glad that my boss let me leave work a little bit early to do it, because it was totally worth it. Once again, we are going to be going to a little video before we do a happy little raid over to somebody's stream, and let's show some love for this upcoming video. I have no idea what I'm promoting. I take everything back, but I trust IPL to make me not look silly. So I suppose we'll move on to that.
The hiss that's about to come out here. Let's listen to it. Will Ray end the game? Ending the